Time is running out. And a lot of black people say that, but for real. Part of why the civil rights movement has been so successful, and part of why those who have come after in terms of our leadership have been able to maintain a presence, is that black people have always had a certain amount of moral currency that we have been using. And let me be the first to tell you, that's used up. White America has been watching us act like fools for a long enough time where any sympathy they may have had to our plight is completely gone. You're approaching a country that, forget hating black people or not hating black people, they just don't care. You can be talking about affirmative action, they can be like, I don't care. It literally is of no importance to me. I don't care about slavery. I don't care about segregation. I don't care about you. I don't care how many of you all go to jail. I don't care at all, because I'm broke. You can't be the proud, noble fighter when every single time someone sees a person that looks like you on television, they're acting like a damn fool. How would they know? How would they know you're not a damn fool? They're gonna talk to you? Yeah, right. This is what we're facing. Now, this was not a very motivational speech because I'm not a motivational speaker. I gotta be honest. So wait.
I'm like, why you don't want to give me my gas?
Listen to me. Go outside and talk to me.
Yeah, we can go outside. I'm
Go
gonna be
outside.
trespassed. I'm
Ma'am,
gonna slap you in real life.
Ma'am, go outside. You've been
I'm gonna
trespassed.
slap you in real life.
Listen,
I'm gonna slap you
listen,
in
you're
real
gonna go to jail now if you don't go
Okay, I
outside.
can go outside.
Then go.
It don't matter. I can go outside. I'm going
Ma'am.
outside. I'm a good girl. Yeah, play with me and my lawyer, bitch. You wanna play with me? You'll be the next one on the news. So can you get me out so I can punch you in your face?
I need my money's worth, dog. I need my money's worth. That's very no, that's very wild, though.
That's
Come
bad.
on, that is
Come on.
very wild.
Walmart
Bro.
do better.
Yeah, that is very wild.
Crazy. That's five lows right there. That's
very
five
wild.
lows.
That is really wild.
Wearing a weave, wearing a weave, always got a sleeve. That's what we call black fatigue.
People are tired of black people. Every time you look up, some Negroes arguing about something.
The black fatigue is real, bro. The nigga fatigue is real. People are tired of the fucking ridiculousness with the violence in the major cities. People getting attacked, people getting beaten, you know, getting jumped. It's like, what the fuck, man, at this point? Fucking ridiculous, bro. It's getting fucking ridiculous. And then people wonder why they want to go ahead and create all white communities.
You know, I like being alive. I don't like knives lodged in my throat. So I don't go near black people. And I understand perfectly well. There are a lot of black people that are not violent, and I understand perfectly well there are a lot of black people that are really good people. I'm not going to roll the dice. What if I'm wrong? I'd rather be alive. I'd rather be alive and too racist than dead and not racist enough. Is that simple enough?
I think that what we're witnessing is the fatigue of just ignorant behavior that all races carry. You know what I'm saying? So I think to just coin it as black fatigue, like what do we call what white people do? What's the word for that? Would it just be called, hey, we're just tired of ignorance, we're just tired of, or is it white fatigue? Like to me, black fatigue is what it really means. But it's just funny to hear white people talk about the side effects of what their people have done to people and then talk about, hey, I don't know what's wrong with them. Like, how do it's up? So when I hear the white people, the most violent, the most aggressive, the most pillaging people to ever walk the face of this planet, actually call out people who are just showing the side effects of years of mental degradation, social degradation, economic chicanery. And when you talk. I know you're getting triggered. It's gonna be a long night.
Hey, what's going on? It's your boy Jeff St. James, and welcome to Ask a Brother Podcast. I'm your host, and I guess I wanted to start off this topic, the truth about Black fatigue, with a particular quote. Never seek to be accepted or understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. And Houston, we have a problem. So if you all are kind of starting to trickle in, I see we have about 70 people now that I just joined. I highly recommend that you send this to everybody that you know, especially foundational Black Americans for sure, both in terms of as a reason to kind of learn and hear about what's going on in terms of this issue, some of the motivating factors for why it is that people are using it. And obviously I've sat on this for probably 3 to 4 weeks, as I've heard this for about 9 months now, being used far and wide between Black, white, and everything in between people. And I have some very, very interesting thoughts for sure. So welcome all of you. I see we're up to 75 already. What's my rule? Please make sure, if you do nothing else, please make sure that you, one sec, I just have to turn this off. Please make sure that you like this video. Please make sure that you send it to as many foundational Black Americans as possible, as well as maybe non-foundational Black Americans who have potentially expressed their opinions and views of Black culture, the Black community, the Black race, et cetera, regardless of whether they're conservative, independent, Republican, progressive, you name it. I think this is going to be a very interesting and thought-provoking episode. And I will say, thank you all that tuned in to my show last night in terms of, what was it called? Single by Choice is a Lie. It seems like about 6,000 or 7,000 of you have watched it since last night. So super appreciative and honored. It sounds like a lot of you hyped up that video, sent it to as many people as you can. Super duper appreciative of us kind of kicking off getting back to these original content pieces for sure. So I'll state this again, and I'll probably state it towards the tail end. Feel free to like this video. Make sure that you share it with as many people as you can, especially people that are interested in these type of topics. And feel free to hype it up. And if you enjoy the overall conversation and how it's going and flowing, again, feel free to hit that $ chat and super chat button and donate $2 or $3 if you see fit. But if you are already a member, I already appreciate it because you're already supporting the channel and brand. All right. So the truth about Black fatigue: never seek to be accepted or understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. And Houston, we have a problem. So interesting intro, by the way. I thought it was really cool. And shout out to Katie and AJ for setting that up for me and getting that ready to go in time. I asked them last minute to kind of compile all of these clips together and make it look dope. And they absolutely killed it with what they did. When I reflect on the concept of Black fatigue, I think we should start with the irony of the original use of this term, which yet again has been taken, co-opted, and bastardized by the white and conservative community into something totally different from what it originally was intended for. For those that may not be aware, Black fatigue was originally coined and referenced professionally by author Mary Frances Winters, who used it in her book in 2020 titled Black Fatigue: How Racism Erodes the Mind, Body, and Spirit. She defined it as the psychological, emotional, and physical exhaustion that Black people experience from constantly navigating persistent systemic racism, historic trauma, microaggressions, and the lack of progress in dismantling racist systems. The formal definition in the book for Black fatigue was repeated variations of stress that results in extreme exhaustion and causes mental, physical, and spiritual maladies. which she developed after observation and research, including Black employees and focus groups and interviews spanning different industries and different generations who reported exhaustion in the workplace, especially in relation to constant exposure to the news of racial injustice and violence. So now, as one becomes much more objective in these type of topics and is able to see things from both micro and macro lens, it actually isn't hard to imagine that not every single instance a Black person's perception relating to racial issues is accurate. However, today it seems that we've gone from one extreme to another in regards to race. From approximately 2008 to about 2020, there appeared to be like a very sharp increase in the media's willingness to not only cover and acknowledge race in news more often, but also include it in situations where it might not have even been a significant or even relevant factor at all. Always seeing race in everything seemed to become more and more of the default setting for both the media, the news, a lot of commentators, as well as many foundational Black Americans and many people who kind of ascribed to leftist leanings, so to speak. Which I would argue is if you see everything through the racial lens, you may be kind of moving a little bit too close towards resembling and following an ideology that looks and resembles something much more closer to cultural Marxism. However, in 2025, with the steep response from the political right to address this overcorrection, which it now included gutting DEI, eliminating racial quotas, so to speak, the move has resulted in a lack of care and empathy for the entire Black community following the fraudulent Black Lives Matter organization that co-opted the Black Lives Matter movement. And Eric Magruder, the first person that you watched during the initial beginning of this episode, who is the creator of Boondocks, by the way, leading us to the warning at the beginning of this episode now apparently being true. It seems like a lot of people far and wide, both outside of the foundational Black American community and many people inside are kind of getting sick of a lot of the behavior and stuff that they're seeing happening within said community. Grace, sympathy, empathy, and empathy for the Black community en masse has officially run out. And every potential legitimate form of discrimination, disrespect, and outright racism, both historically and current, is now met with skepticism, doubt, accusatory response of having a victim mentality. You're making it up and just flat out making excuses. This newer wave of illegitimizing any and all complaints, issues, and concerns from Black persons relating to race are now no longer taken seriously, while the ills, ghetto, ratchet, violent, and ugly behavior happening within the community and the culture are now not only fully acknowledged, seen, and recognized as now a current reflection and complete snapshot of Black people, both individually, culturally, and collectively. This more recent and reinvigorated approach in response to analyzing the Black community, culture, and people themselves have had significant ramifications now. There is now increased doubt in Black individuals being in and having certain roles and positions all throughout society, and whether or not they earned it, deserved it, or took the place of a more deserving white person. There has been a return to an assumption of guilty until proven innocence when engaging and interacting with law enforcement, and a general fatigue, anger, annoyance, and frustration, not simply towards Black criminals or individuals that are being rude, aggressive, or even unprofessional, but now those feelings are bleeding over into fatigue, anger, and disdain for Black people, period. This ideology a frustration with the worst aspects of Black community and culture has resulted many non-whites also espousing similar sentiments towards Blacks. Now we also have Africans and other immigrants sharing open disdain, disrespect, and annoyance towards foundational Black Americans, as well as many members within the Black community itself. Unfortunately, it is becoming harder and harder to distinguish a white nationalist and supremacist talking point and mindset versus a Eurocentric African, a regular white person, and even a Black conservative that are all using and describing having Black fatigue. So in today's episode, there are a number of directions I felt like I could kind of go in terms of discussing this issue. I could have tapped into on statistics and per capita, disproportionate this or that, and the differing definitions of culture, the history and legacy of systemic racism, and when it is supposedly ended. But I think I would rather focus a lot more on the psychological framework many individuals are using when engaging in this topic from both ends, by the way, and why it actually more often than not is a useless exchange when people have grounded in stubborn ideological frameworks on both sides when it comes to their feelings about this topic. So I have an initial premise. Premise number one. White people that use the term Black fatigue and those that think like them don't actually care. They don't actually care. I don't think, if I'm going to be honest, I don't think that they actually care about data and facts. I don't think that they care about anecdotal examples and experiences. I don't even think that they care about multivariate analysis. Shit, I don't even think that they care about history. Unless, of course, that data, facts, anecdotal experiences, history, and even analysis confirms and justifies their feelings and conclusions that they already have and have accepted about the Black community. In essence, talking to individuals that's already decided, regardless of what did, other anecdotes, other data, multivariate analysis, regardless of history, they don't actually care about any of those things unless it confirms how they feel about Black people in the Black community. That's why I think when you try to talk to and engage with these people directly, it's like pissing in the wind. It doesn't matter what you're aiming at. They're never going to allow you to hit the target. What does this mean conversationally? Well, there isn't any data, facts, anecdotes, or historical analysis that will factor in for them that goes against the narrative that they're already holding on to in regards to how they think and view the Black community as of today anyway. In essence, every negative experience and examples they observe online or hear about will only further confirm their view of Blacks. They will ignore the far more frequent, boring, and mundane everyday examples of Black people doing nothing, saying nothing, and not even bothering them or anyone else, which is clearly far more frequent and often in their actual lives. So keep that in mind, that when people go out of their way to use that type of terminology, if and when you try to engage with them and reference those things, whether it's legitimate facts, your own personal anecdotes, data, historical analysis, none of that's going to matter to them. Because I've watched people on panel discussions, I've watched people try to engage with people in regards to stuff like this, and it seems like they can never kind of nail them down because in their worldview, none of those things that contradicts their worldview matter or important or relevant for how they're seeing it and what they think. It's just a thought. Let's get to point number 2. So please make sure if you guys are watching this that you like it, that you share it with as many people, especially foundational Black Americans, but also Africans and other various immigrant groups, as well as, white people as well, that maybe tends to have a very interesting and pointed viewpoint in this particular topic. So point number 2, groupthink is not something that only liberals do. So I'm going to show you all just briefly what groupthink is. So groupthink, the practice of thinking or making decisions as a group in a way that discourages creativity or responsibility. An example that they gave, and actually let me put this back up the way that it was. Actually, I like that version. There's always a danger of groupthink when two leaders are so alike. So for those who read Orwell and has heard the reference of groupthink, oftentimes it's a very accurate accusation when people are criticizing Democrats and leftists and more particularly liberals, more specifically, in terms of how it is that they tend to kind of operate, where if the group or culture now decides this is the new thing to believe in, the new thing to vote for, the new thing to advocate for, well, now I guess that's what we're supposed to do. Reality is, man, the U.S. has a deep, deep history of alternating who is now the new boogeyman in culture and society. From McCarthyism, targeting communists, Japanese exclusion, the lengthy history of discriminatory behavior and practices towards Black Americans, and even the most recent examples towards Arabs and Muslims post 9/11. And I want to kind of sit in on this for a little bit in regards to 9/11. For those of you that are old enough and kind of remember what happened, right? I was in 7th grade at the time. And I remember our teacher at the time coming in and bringing in the TV on the wheels, like they would do in elementary school. And she rolled the TV in and she turned the TV on. And my class got really quiet. And she had this sullen look on her face. And she said something bad happened. And she turned on the TV. And we watched planes flying into buildings. And we were in Jersey at the time. And we all were kind of stunned because I don't think any of us had ever seen anything like that outside of like movies before. And we all got a little scared. And, a lot of the students around the country, but particularly us in New Jersey, was able to leave school early. And when I got home, both my parents were home watching it on TV and everybody just was like tense. And, over the next few days and weeks, it was determined, at least officially, that apparently some Islamic jihadists, so to speak, apparently were in the planes and were the ones who orchestrated this supposed terrorist attack. I have different philosophical views on probably what happened that day, but that's for a different episode, different video, maybe a conspiracy theory episode. But following that, the attitude, the mindset, a lot of what people were thinking about and the fear towards Arabs and Muslims specifically, it was actually quite palpable. Yeah, it wasn't me, it wasn't my particular group, but I saw it all everywhere. I saw it online. I saw the stories of what people were saying they went through. I saw the examples of people being attacked. And it was the new group think approach for now to be socially acceptable to shit on Muslims and Arabs post 9/11. And for quite a while, it was actually pretty freaking ugly. And these people, some of them had to relocate. Some of them had to live in somewhat of fear. Some of them outright got attacked. And it became the new thing, somewhat similar to McCarthyism and the targets of this group and that group and Japanese exclusion. It was just their turn in America. And now it appears that we're back. And it's pretty obvious that there's now a growing animus again, frustration and anger, somewhat legitimate, and some maybe not so much, towards, again, everybody's favorite target group, foundational Black Americans, apparently. And the question I'm going to ask you all is how and what was life like for the average Muslim or Arab American that was living during that time, both as a group and potentially individually? If you think about that for a second, people are looking at you when you walk in an airport, back then anyway, suspicious, wondering if you're going to be the next one to blow up the plane, wondering if you're a secret jihadist, suspecting the worst thing about you, not based off of what they know about you, but simply off of what you look like. Group thing. I'm going to get to point number 3, but I'm going to say this again. Feel free to share this with everybody that you know, far and wide, in terms of Black, white, everything in between. I think this is going to be more of an educational video for sure. And now we're going to get to some in the weeds of some of these things. All right. And real quick, I do see somebody already did a super chat, so let me read that real quick. Raylon Ellis, 4160. Thank you for the $10. He writes, "That's why we have to focus on ourselves and form smaller groups of our people to insulate ourselves and separate from the worst of us." Live from Santo Domingo. Whoa. Shout out to you for watching it from so far away, and I appreciate you contributing to this discussion for sure. And that's a very interesting thought in terms of what to do when you repeatedly have cycles of people within your community that makes your community both unsafe and looks bad, and simultaneously people outside the community who are constantly judging and having growing concerns, if not flat out animus, towards that said community. All right, let's continue. Point number 3. The normalization and desensitization of white crime, criminality, maladaptive and oppositional, defiant, deviant, and antisocial behaviors versus the fixation, obsession, and generalization of minority populations that do the same. There seems to be, more often than not, especially in the Black fatigue group, a greater concern and interest and fixation with certain crimes, certain behaviors, and issues in one population versus others, and not having any genuine concern or motivations to learn about them at all. My view is that it's one thing to acknowledge that there's a problem. It's definitely another thing to acknowledge that there's a problem when it directly affects you. It's an entirely different thing when you start to note that the way in which they describe, how much they fixate on it, why they choose not to focus on any other thing that also isn't affecting them, oftentimes, more often than not, it starts to sound very pathological. And now we're starting to wonder if potentially their arguments are more genetic, scientific, something other than simply culture that they're trying to fixate on and point to. Just a thought that perhaps this is something that I think that we need to consider. That perhaps not everyone who thinks about these things and talks about these things and gets on microphones and tries to quote unquote bring attention to said things actually truly cares. And why is it that they care so much about one group, which despite how disproportionate it is and their per capita numbers being so high and this and that, the other examples that you see in all groups and all cultures, they just don't give a fuck. I do say, Jeff Quinn, appreciate you for the $1.99. Good sir. At 2366, I appreciate you, sir, for the 199 for sure. And let's continue. Point number three. Actually, I said point number three already. Point number 4. Downplaying and minimizing problems and issues happening within one's own community won't make those issues go away, nor change the mindset of the person, because the general stereotypes of Black Americans being accused of more emotionalism. That's a fancy way of saying when I've watched Foundation of Black Americans try to engage in people who seem to only want to focus on demonizing the Black community, demonizing Black people, period. How you respond actually matters. Whether you realize it or not, it matters. Because one of the clearest accusations and stereotypes that we as a community have that's not good is that we lean into what's called, let me remove this one, emotionalism, which is the tendency to favor or express emotions over reason, often seen as an excessive or undue display of feelings, appealing strongly to sentiment, and prioritizing emotional responses in all of these areas. Let's go further down. Key aspects of emotionalism are as follows: a tendency to yield too readily to emotions, displaying them excessively, an appeal to feelings, prioritizing emotions, and of potentially manipulation. One of the things that I've learned and seen and recognized that potentially is only adding fuel to the fire is that if and when people start to bring up race and talk about concepts like Black fatigue and Black people have no culture in America, this and that, we have an unfortunate tendency to not respond well to those types of things. And I would argue, and I even saw it with Pearl when she was on Fatty and Ali's platform, when she mentions that Black fatigue and reasons and the criminality and that a lot of women love Black criminals, including Black women, right? Of all the different ways that people could have chose to respond with it, some of the people on the panel decided that was the time to crash out. That was the time to crash out. What was Pearl's response after that? This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the shit we are tired of listening to, seeing. You can't just have a conversation. Now, to be fair, there may be a little bit of gaslighting in that for sure, but the reality is every time people talk about the Black community, especially in panels and platforms, you do have a decision to make if you're going to lean heavily into emotionalism or some other approach. But if and when you do decide to do that, well, they're going to argue that that's just proving the exact point that they've had to make. And what made it worse was that when there were people also on the platform who were responding to her and pointing out things that white people in white community and what tends to happen within white culture that's not positive, Pearl was like, I can own that. That's fact. In fact, there's some issues with that, and I'll be the first to acknowledge that. And she showed how somebody can engage in something that's uncomfortable, that's referencing the group that they're coming from or a part of, and she just did not have any necessary actual emotionalism attached to her response. Pearl left, was able to hop on her platform, cover it, show these unruly Blacks reacting super emotional, not being willing to acknowledge her experience or the countless experiences of people that saying we're sick of this shit. And emotionalism is a very, very bad look, especially when it comes to people who are trying to engage online about these type of topics. Just a thought. Hey, appreciate you, good brother, for the $2. I appreciate you keeping the algorithm up. Listen, y'all, I'm highly, highly recommending, again, that you guys send this to everybody that you know. friends, family, minorities, non-minorities. I think that this is a conversation that can be very helpful, especially when I get towards the tail end in terms of how to respond and engage with this type of subject and topics. So before I get to point number 4, let me see what folks have been saying in the chat. Appreciate you, Coach KL, for sure. Who else we got in the building? Yeah. And just a thought for all of you that are hopping in to this is the actual topic that I'm going to be talking about. So I'm not going to be talking heavily about other topics or unrelated topics. So if you are clicking on the link and hopping in and starting to get up in the building, just kind of keep that in mind that we're staying on task, which is today's topic, which is the truth about Black fatigue. Hey, what's going on? Appreciate you for coming through. Just a brown girl in America. Thank you for slotting through. I appreciate your support for sure. And Jeff Quinn, yes, it is, believe it or not. But that's beside the point. I'm focusing more on once that's made, what it is that should be done in response to that, or how we should not react and respond to. But actually, it is to a certain extent. Let me continue on and see who else. Yes. I don't think this is a controversial answer. I think it's very obvious. Mention Obama. Mention Black fatigue. Mention Black criminality, Black on Black crime. Mention this or mention that. And mention it especially if you're not a foundational Black American. Oh my God. Watch and see how folks tend to fall apart when stuff like this kind of happens. So let's get back to it. Facts for sure. This reinforces the temperature of the world. Yeah. It's not typically helpful. Now, again, if you want to crash out, try not to do it on camera. If you want to crash out, if you want to get highly reactive and emotional, just realize that when you turn the camera on and when you hop in front of the camera, much of what's happened to our image is a result of what's happening on camera. So when we're talking about that's not all of us, that's not us, that's just a small percentage and But then when you're presented with people's feelings, emotions, or some data that may or may not be true, you fall apart. You freak out. You get aggressive. You start threatening and cussing people out. That's part of what people are reacting to in terms of what they're quoting as Black fatigue, whether you ironically realized it or not. Let's see who else we got real quick. Yeah, she did own up to the problems. It's the unnecessary emotion by Black people that's causing the fatigue. We need to be calm and collective. W Dave for you. What a good point about Pearl's attitude. Yeah, man. The reality is, it's true. Like, they threw the exact same talking points to Pearl, and she just didn't have anything close to the same type of reaction or response as a couple of the people on the original panel did. I think the second panel that she hopped on where folks engaged with her was actually fairly good, personally. Hey, what's going on, Doug MPA for sure. And listen, that's my guy. And I'm grateful, bro, that you're here for sure. And then, bro, if you want to hop in the chat, make sure that you do. The link is at the top for sure. And I would love to have you kind of hop on and hear your thoughts, because me and you have talked over the phone about this particular topic a couple of times, I feel like. Eric Lloyd, my guy, appreciate you gifting the memberships. And hey, we already starting it off right. All right. Appreciate you, good brother, for the $200. Now let me get situated. Eric Lloyd is in the building, so you know your boy got to now get a little more excited, get a little bit more spunk in him. I appreciate you, brother, for sure. Thank you for this. So yeah, man. Those are my first 3 things that I kind of thought about for sure that I think would be very, very helpful. And of course, this is not necessarily shock value discussion per se. This is much more, just getting into the weeds from an analytical and psychological lens to kind of see what it is that's happening when people typically engage in this type of conversations, on both sides. So point number 4. And JQ, if you're ready, let me know, or show yourself so I can make sure I can kind of add you pretty soon. And point number 4, I think I already read that one. Downplaying and minimizing problems and issues happening in one's own community. Yep, already did that one for sure. And in reality, I actually think that the real issue for a lot of folks, including people like myself, is that what we see, those of us who have nuance, we have what's called ratchet and ghetto fatigue. We don't really frame it as black fatigue because we recognize the nuance that this isn't anything close to a reflection of an overwhelming percentage of black people per se. To some degree, there's definitely some things that I think is way, way too frequent and common in the black community. I may even give some specifics on that. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get to point number 5. Point number 5, the conflation of criminals with black people versus the spectrum of understanding the full black American experience. And I kind of alluded to that just in the previous point, but I want to kind of hone in on this even more. Part of the discussion about black fatigue actually legitimately has nothing to do with crime whatsoever. It's just the general experience that people are starting to state about what's happening when they're working around, traveling near, living near black people. and it's not pretty what many of their supposedly true experiences are. The loudness, the brashness, the argumentativeness, the playing loud music when you're on a train. And it's just like, first of all, I've seen this shit. So I can't sit here and act like I haven't seen it. I work in the hood. I work in a predominantly black environment and space. And I've worked in prisons. I've worked with and along the court system. And I've also worked in the outpatient setting in North Philadelphia. And I've seen these things. So I'm not one to, act like nothing that people are talking about is happening. I've seen quite a bit of it, right? However, there's also people that are using black fatigue and constantly referencing crime. They're constantly referencing black on black crime. They're constantly referencing the violence that's happening in the community. They're constantly referencing how many black men are currently incarcerated and et cetera, et cetera. And when you use terms like black fatigue, and then you're referencing crime, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to imagine, when you think about it, that if you're using black to as a descriptor when talking about crime, it sounds like you're talking about black people, right? So when you hear me often use a lot of terminology, when I tend to be very careful with my descriptors and how I'm referencing things. I tend to say liberals, conservatives, white nationalists, white supremacists, black nationalists, et cetera, just to kind of add that little wiggle room of nuance to make it known I'm rarely, if ever, referencing an entire group. I don't know the entire group. I haven't met the entire group, et cetera. But you get my gist. Some of the people that are often referencing and using black fatigue, it's because they see all black people as fucking criminals. So when you get people that will say, like, I can't live near black people, or I don't want black people living near me, they're not saying they don't want people that may have a propensity towards crime. Their assumption is that black people, period, have a propensity towards that. So again, when you're engaging with people who just see all black people as the worst thing ever, highly unproductive conversation is probably going to unfold. So now, before I get to point number 6, I do see a couple people have pulled up in the chat. JQ, are you there? JQ, are you there? I don't know if he's there. He's not showing himself. So Doug MPA, I'm going to add you first, good sir. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, my friend?
What's happening, man? So for those that don't know, Doug MPA was the guy who got me onto my launch post being viral the first time with Pearl. So welcome, brother. I appreciate you jumping in.
Yeah, we've had a couple of conversations about this topic, and pretty much anything that you have that level of a conversation about any subject that you and I can go back and forth, or anyone else you can have. You should probably make a show about, because we get pretty heated on this one. All in good fun. I'm on the team of, first off, I don't mind any group can advocate for their own group. I don't mind if black people say, I'm pro-black. I don't care if white people say I'm pro-white. I don't care. I don't care if a black person says I don't want my children to be with white people, and I don't care if a white person says I don't want my white kid to be with a black person. I don't care, dude. Like, advocate for your own group. I was on Pearl's show, and she had Homath on there, and Homath said that this, like, black fatigue with white people is purely like an emotional thing, right?
He did say
and one of the biggest problems with emotional arguments and emotional issues is that it's hard to quantify. So I remember initially you were talking about black crime statistics and how a lot of white people, they're not even, because we only make up 13% of the population. So a lot of white people, they're not around enough black communities and what they perceive as problems with the black community as a whole to be able to have an opinion.
Facts.
And you're trying to, once again, you're trying to quantify it. But black fatigue is like, I brought up the example, we're talking about it. It's Boise, Idaho.
Okay.
Like 1% black. You're in a Whole Foods where everyone's overpaying for groceries, and the one person in the Whole Foods making noise, yelling and screaming, and whose kids are running around acting crazy is the black girl. Why? You know what I'm saying? Or you know, why is it that the person with the worst attitude in a workplace is always a black woman who you have to call Miss Shanika, and she treats everyone like garbage? Why? And people say, "Oh, that's just how she is. She's so strong." No, it's just the worst parts of our culture. White people are tired of. And another thing with me, guys, I grew up in a predominantly white area. You know, I speak proper English. I have a graduate degree. I'm very successful in my field, and the type of people that are giving white people black fatigue, I had black fatigue my whole life. Like, they make my version of blackness a problem. So I can understand where white people are coming from when it comes to black fatigue, because the only people that have more black fatigue than white people are people like me, who have been called white their whole lives. We're tired of it.
I'm
tired of it.
This reminds me of, for those who grew up watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right?
The Carltons.
Yeah, the Carltons, right? And how I distinctly remember an episode when he was trying to get into a fraternity, and they wanted to exclude him because he wasn't quote unquote down, right? And Kevin Samuels actually spoke on this. The 1 or 2 times that I ever heard him actually even talk about politics, and he talked about that it was actually the Carltons in a more conservative approach that is actually the wave of what he thinks was much more reflective of the type of standard of how Black Americans should be carrying themselves. And right. And when we all grew up watching that, a lot of us didn't aspire to be like, yeah, I want to be like Carlton, right? Like, that wasn't necessarily a big thing. Even those of us who were very much like Carlton growing up, a lot of people was like, I want people to treat me the way that they treat Carlton. And what you said, there is a true aspect to that within the community, there seems to be, and I've seen it, I've heard it, it's even been said to me, oh, you talk white, right? You're trying to be white. And there's this equation or equating having tact, class, respect, not being
integrity, follow through.
Right? And
ambition.
A lot of, yes. And wanting to go to college, like wanting to, so you read books now? Like, what the fuck? Like, we're hearing this from some of our own people, and that's a legit thing, right? And then simultaneously, while we were growing up, who are we all referencing and talking about as potential idols? Athletes and rap artists, right? In my circles growing up, a lot of us weren't really referencing and really didn't have a lot of reference point. We didn't have a Ben Carson to talk about. We didn't have a reference point for that, right? So I understood even very early that as I tried to learn more, get better, grow in certain respects, I realized that there was a segment of people within my community that was always going to view me differently and potentially not accept me. Now, as I became an adult and became a man, that really didn't mean as much to me. And funny enough, the way I talk now is the exact same way I still talk, even in every urban areas that I've worked in, from Camden to Wilmington, Delaware at the prison to even Philly now, I still am the exact same way. And I haven't had to change or try to compromise. But the difference was what I learned was that what seemed to kind of work or seemed to be very effective way of kind of teasing and bullying people into like not being smart and not using proper English as a kid, that shit really doesn't work on people as adults for the most part. And now as an adult, being myself, being true to who I am, I don't even have to code switch anymore around people, regardless of where I'm at. And I'm noticing, regardless of how educated people are or not formally, they still interact and respect me nonetheless, more often than not. But
I
yeah,
agree.
man, I can acknowledge what you're talking about of that experience.
That comes from men and women. Guys in the chat, if you are a young, ambitious, academic, nerdy black male and you're getting it, guys, just achieve and wait till you're 35. If you are an accomplished black man with no children, you hit 35, all of a sudden none of that matters anymore. I'm telling you, there will be a time where you have the confidence and the accolades where none of that matters. Number one. And then I'm gonna tell you just real quick, the last black fatiguing thing that happened to me. I was actually on a date with a woman, and
is this the one in DC?
Yeah. So things weren't really working out. So whenever things aren't working out, I usually toss out a test question to see where her mind is at. Because you and I both agreed, you know, if you're vetting women, you kind of want to see where they are on the whole feminism kind of thing, right?
Yeah, facts.
So I said, hey, did you hear about Ayesha Curry airing out Steph Curry on podcasts? And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, yeah, because
Ayesha Curry.
Yeah, because you know, Ayesha Curry is just rinsing out her husband on these podcasts, saying, oh, you know, I didn't think he was good enough to go into the NBA. I never wanted to be married. I never wanted to have kids. He, you know, whatever. And then, you know, I brought up Michelle Obama. And I said, Michelle Obama just rinses out Barack Obama. Wrote in a book that she hated him for 10 years of their marriage. And he's financially irresponsible. And Michelle Obama and Ayesha Curry are an example of what happens when you marry a woman who thinks that she's better than you, because she'll never see you as anything but that clown that she met when you first met him. So I bring this up, and this woman is trying to explain to me why it's okay for a wife to rinse out her husband in public. And I'm like, no, that's not okay. It's not. So then I brought up Orange Man's inauguration, and then Carter's funeral, and how Michelle didn't show up with Barack.
She did not.
To Trump's inauguration and
the funeral.
Yeah.
Where Carter.
And she's like, well, if she didn't want to go, she shouldn't have to go. And I said, no, that's not true. Hillary Clinton went. Michelle couldn't go. Are you serious? And she's trying to explain to me why it's okay for the only living former president whose spouse wasn't there was the black guy, because of course. And she's trying to like, and I'm like, it's not okay. They had our ethnic image on their shoulders. And she failed. She should have been there. And she's trying to explain to me why it's okay for a wife to not show up for her husband. I said, it's because there's a low level amount of disrespect and near hatred from the average black woman to the average black man. And you see it in those instances.
Yeah, Kevin Samuels did speak to that low level of disrespect within the community from a lot of the women towards the men, for sure. And, you know, I've also noticed it, especially when black men try to point out what's happening in the community when they're talking specifically about black women's behavior. That's when a lot of times, unfortunately, you're starting to see like you said, the disrespect, the ghetto-ness, the ratchet behavior, my guy Shape, call me Shape, the podcaster. He was just with Trev up in Jersey in his studio, and that went viral a week or two ago, where they're just having a conversation. She's insanely delusional, and he calls her out on some of her delusional statements, and she steps up, gets in his face, takes a swing at him, tries to knock his hat off his head. And right, like that, everybody's talking about that. That's
black fatigue right there, dude. Black fatigue. I'm tired of it.
That's a thing, man. So I acknowledge, like, that's a legit issue. That's a legit thing. And in hindsight, man, it's like, I know instances like that aren't helping people like on my side. That's like, I don't like the term. But I also understand, like you just said, those are the examples that a lot of people are actually referencing. However, to be careful, when you can't really, when people hear a term and they don't hear an explanation and they can't distinguish what you're saying and what you're thinking from what a white supremacist is stating, that's probably not a good place to be. That's my humble opinion. I think people who have nuance, people who have grown up in it, people who understand it a little bit more deeply, probably need to be a little bit more creative than using white nationalist, white supremacist talking points personally, because you may have an experiential, detailed reason and rationale for how you can parse out and separate what you're acknowledging is and is not part of the Black community, and what you're stating that's more in general versus specific. White nationalists and white supremacists don't give a fuck about none of that. They're just using Black fatigue and sick of Black people to mean Black people, period. I'm
smart enough to delineate a white supremacist and just like a regular white person.
Yeah.
And like, if I just see an average white person saying Black people, the stuff that white people say doesn't bother me anymore, man. It just doesn't.
Be fair.
Like that's poor. I
don't
mind if a white guy says I don't want my daughter dating Black guys. I don't care. So what?
Yeah.
You know, like,
and
here's the thing. Honestly, white supremacists, we should let them say what they want to say, so we can easily identify them and move out and get past them. Black people, we can achieve whatever. Okay, you have to get on the field to go run a touchdown, but you have to know who's in what position, right? Let white supremacists say whatever you want, so you can deal with them accordingly. I don't get offended. I'm gonna let somebody else on.
You know what's crazy? I said this to a white coworker several years ago, that I told her I actually have a little bit more respect for white racists who are out in the open.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. And she was like, why would you say that? And I was like, because I love my racists out in the open. I want to know where we stand. I want to know what the expectations are. I want to know what your territory is, and I'll proceed accordingly. You don't try to intrude on my territory, I'm not going to intrude on yours. I prefer that than this chameleon racism where both on the left and the right, you don't know how much these people, and it's crazy. It isn't until something pops up or something slips out that you're like, oh shit, I didn't know you thought that way about me or my community or people that like me. And now that changes.
When they get so comfortable around you that they forget that you're Black.
You're a good one. You're one of the good ones. Huh?
And honestly, because growing up where I grew up in like one of the most liberal areas ever, there's two kinds of racism. There's racism on the left and there's racism on the right.
Facts.
The right is they don't want you there. Let me know so I don't have to go over there. But racism on the left is, what's that called? It's the bigotry of lower expectations or something like that.
Yep.
And I would argue that
paternalism, where they think that they're like a parent over you, so they know what's best for you. They know what the proper strategies are. They know how you should vote. They're telling you what you need to do and how to move and how to succeed in life. Like,
because they learned that in their African American studies class in college, and you have to fit that mold. If you don't, like they short circuit. They're like, what's going on? But anyway, I could talk all day. I'll let somebody else come. Guys, make sure to like the stream and subscribe, because I want Jeff to do more of these call-in shows, so he can interact with you guys, and keep hitting that super chat button. Jeff, we will talk again soon. We will talk again soon, my friend. Always good talking to you.
Yeah, bro. I appreciate it. Thanks, bro. All right, y'all. So that was an initial first person. Let me bring on a couple more people, and then we're going to hop back into point number 6 and 7, which are my last 2 points, by the way. Second person that came in was Chicago Black. Is it Delegate? Let me move this off.
Delegation, my bad.
Delegation. What's going on, good brother? Welcome.
What's up, brother? Jeff.
How are you?
Not bad, man. I've been watching you for a good minute, man. I've been watching you from almost the very beginning, I think.
Man, listen, you've been a dope supporter. You've also been a dope critic. But I appreciate the fact that you continue to engage. I appreciate the fact that, unlike a lot of people who maybe represent your politics, represent your perspectives, unlike a lot of people who actually run, who don't face the music, and who aren't willing to do what we're going to do tonight, I appreciate you jumping on for sure. So obviously the topic today is the truth about Black fatigue. So let me know your thoughts.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely. But there's been some disagreements here and there, but I'm definitely going to stay on topic today. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to say that's one of the dopest hats I've ever seen. That Black American Heritage flag.
Hey,
I like a little bit more than that flag you had in the background, but that's a topic for another conversation. You know,
make masculinity great again. You don't want that hat?
Topic for another conversation,
one, brother.
Okay, it's cool, it's deep, you know. But
you just ain't gonna wear it in Chicago. That's all. What's up?
First, I want to say is I do gotta respect you a lot for not selling out. You know what I'm saying? Especially in this YouTube thing, the way the kind of algorithm kind of works and stuff like that. It's really geared towards a certain types of audiences. You know what I'm saying? And neither one of those audiences are specifically pro-Black. I would argue. You know what I mean?
I agree.
I realized you was on the right side here. See, when I saw your Charlie Kirk video, you know, may you rest in peace, mind you. No disrespect towards any of that kind of happened, but you know, there's some things that was said while he was alive that need to be addressed. And I think you did in the most respectful, most honest way that I've ever seen anybody in engaging in that conversation. So huge respect. I've been wanting to tell you that for a long time.
Thank you, bro.
But regardless of Black, just quick statement about this whole Black fatigue situation. Isn't it kind of tethers out into like other aspects of like this brand of racism, right? And there is, you know, I do respect it there. I do understand there's a liberal version of racism as well that we need to address as Black Americans. But it's, for me, I think it's just more or less a competition of resources for the most part.
Okay.
And they'll, to the point where they'll resort to delusion if need be. So they'll hear the 1350s. They'll hear the whole crime, the violence in Chicago, even though that type of thing is only like relegated to the poorest parts of Chicago.
I was there this summer, man.
A bigger pardon?
Yeah, I said I was there this summer, man. That city is beautiful. I had a dope ass time. I got family out there. It was amazing, bro. Chicago was beautiful.
Man, Chicago, man. I can. Don't get me started on that. Like real quick, I had a hot conversation with a young lady from I think Ghana, and she thought Chicago was this. She thought I know you're millennial. You're a millennial, right?
Yeah.
So, bro, she thought Chicago was streets race too, bro. Streets of Rage 2. And I'm like, yo, like it's just look, there's a part of Chicago for sure.
Yeah.
It's specifically certain pockets of the city that's more so about the poverty and the disinvestment than anything else. But you know, so I had to kind of brush up on history regarding that. Tell her that the other things that her auntie told her was false as well, but that's besides the point. But yeah, like I said, these individuals, they just resort to any types of delusion while ignoring their own, the statistics of their own people to the point where they won't even hold themselves accountable. I mean, like I said, the black community definitely has a situation where we need to do better at holding our own accountable. So I do respect platforms such as this one. Yeah. But when these people, the Pearl and the other people, I'm not gonna, when they start to throw shots at us, I'm like, okay, well, how come you don't put any sort of like real spotlight on these other communities that's doing really bad in their communities? How come you're not judging them by their bottom 15% bottom 15%? But whatever. But that's my question to you, and I'm gonna close with this. I'm gonna dip because I got some food cooking. What are your thoughts on the notion that they are afraid we would take revenge if we were given power?
100% agreement. I think Black advancement, if it's too much, if it's too fast, and the reason why I'm basing this is actually off of history, right? Like, we have so much history that showed 20 plus towns, 20 plus cities, where when we were allowed to quote unquote be left alone and do our own thing, they were destroyed. And that was a repeated pattern all throughout the Midwest, South, and East Coast. It's a fact. So this isn't a one-off, right? This isn't a one-off where, like, when Black people are left to themselves to do their own thing, everybody doesn't care. It is what it is, and everybody's gonna be happy for it. Turns out that's just not historically accurate. It just flat out isn't. And then then we get the Charlie Kirks of the world, where whether it's ideological related, policy related, when you see a Black person, now you have scrutiny of why are they there? How did they get there? Should they be there? Should I be allowed to be there instead of them? That's there. You got that piece. So there's multiple things at play, both historically and presently, that shows that there appears to be a level of scrutiny, jealousy. How widespread it is, no one will ever know. How many white people think this way versus could care less, like Aaron Magruder kind of was mentioning, we don't know. And I would argue this, it's probably the same way of how Nick Fuentes' argument, which is, I don't know when it comes to Black people anymore. So my view and lens is, of course, there's a percentage of white people who would feel threatened and worried about the idea and possibility that if Black people ever got too big, too powerful, and got too much power, or if white people became the true minority, and there's now legitimate fear and concern of how they would be treated if they're now in the minority status. Yeah, that's a legit thing. And it's happening in Europe. It's happening here, white replacement theory, which I'm going to reference briefly at some point later in this discussion. There is a percentage of them that are worried that we have anything close to the type of humanity or lack thereof when white people have come into contact with Black and brown people across the globe. There's a lot of them that think that way. Am I willing to stand on a hill and say that it's a majority of white people? No, I'm not. I think there's a spectrum. I think that there's white people who don't give a damn. I think at all. I think there's white people that just want to be left alone. I think there's white people that's very interested, the Karens of the world, who will weaponize their whiteness and their emotional fragility and their unwillingness to cohabitate and do life with Black people. They're all over the place. So that's my best answer. You know, I know it's probably not super satisfactory, but I think there is a percentage of people, both historically and presently, that think that way, but not enough for me to walk with confidence and say, I think overwhelmingly the majority of white people think this way. In reality, I think if I had to stick it, I think the overwhelming majority of people in every other group, including our own white people, Asians, Hispanics, Black folks included, I think the overwhelming percentage of people are so concerned about their own finances, the cost of living, making sure that they can feed their kids and take care of their property and homes, whether they can afford rent. I don't think, despite this trending thing, I don't think Black people's top 5 on most people's radar, believe it or not. They're day to day. I don't think of all the neighbors that I have that includes Africans, Chinese, foundational Black Americans, various different types of white people, all scattered amongst my community. I don't have any reference point, having been in this new community, to say that any of these people are acting or treating me weird, or that they're super concerned about what's happening with me or the fact that I'm even on the block. I don't think does that mean there's nobody on the block that may have certain discriminatory or racist views? Potentially, but it hasn't come up. And I actually think more often than not, just like there's white people that's gassing this shit up and they may have had like 2 or 3 negative encounters in person with Black people, like ever. That's probably the case even for those of us who have had and experienced legitimate racism. I probably experienced outright blatant examples of racism less than 5 times in my actual life. That's 5 times and I'm 36. So you get what I'm saying? So it's kind of like that, where, you know, it's possible people may think that way and be worried about that. I do think politicians lean in on that fear and try to drum it up in people and try to position and push. It's no different than when they're telling Black people, we're all going to be back in chains if Trump gets reelected again. It's the same concept when you think about it. It's just in the reverse. And the reality is, how many black people tangibly, truly believe we're going to be in chains and go back to slavery if Donald Trump gets reelected? And he did, and it didn't happen. But there were black people who were saying that. Did that mean overwhelming majority of black people really thought and believed that? Probably not. And that's probably the same thing that's going on the other side of the aisle, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, nothing you said was particularly disagreeable, for real. I think you stated that very, very well. Yeah, I think that. I mean, you was worried that it wasn't satisfactory. I think it's pretty good. Mind you, I'm 38 years old and I've experienced like blatant racism probably twice. I was a shorty, and then some dude drove past and he gave me the hard R. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess if whatever you want to quantify as racism, maybe some stereotypical messages as far as something about basketball. You know what I'm saying?
Microaggressions, shit like that.
Things like that. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not really tripping for real.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pretty dope conversation for real. I'll leave space for the rest of the guys that's dying to talk to you. So it's been cool talking to you, cousin.
Well, listen, bro, I appreciate you, and make sure you DM me on IG because I think that we could do this more often. And I definitely want to connect with some political figures out there if you got some connections, because I've been wanting some Democrat political figures to actually come on, and I've actually extended the invite, and none of them have agreed. Not in Chicago, particularly, more so in Philly. And none of them have agreed as of yet, whereas conservative people have been acknowledging and stating that they're planning on coming on in early 2026. So I definitely want some balance and folks to kind of come in and challenge me, not disrespect me, but definitely come in and challenge and let me know what are they doing for our community, especially over there. So I appreciate you, bro.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Have a blessing, man.
All right, man. All right. So Unity is Strength 1. Appreciate you for the $10 where you write black young men who are introverted or have trouble with self-confidence being a black man. Go and watch Kevin Samuels' episode titled You Deserve Better and embrace being arrogant every morning. I'm going to look that up myself because that sounds pretty dope. And that may be something I might actually want to cover both for black men, but men in general, because I know that a lot of men struggle with that as well. All right. I'm going to bring on another guest or two real quick. I'm going to make some space, folks. I'm going to make some space for those if I've already talked to you, just to make sure I got it on. All right, I'm going to bring on two more people for now, and then I'm going to hit point 6 and 7. All right, so real quick, y'all, have you joined in the last 15, 20 minutes, make sure that you like this. Make sure that you send it to every black and brown, white, Asian, whatever person you know, especially people that are interested in these type of discussions and dialogues. I brought two people. I just happened to add two people who I've probably had varying degrees of differences about various topics, including this topic. And as you saw, we were able to engage and talk about the nuanced conversation of this. And I hope that by doing it the way that I'm doing it on this channel, I'm kind of starting to show and reflect how other stations and platforms and podcasts could potentially approach this stuff. Because a lot of times the way that we present ourselves and how we engage with each other between men and women, and even how we engage with people that are outside of the community like Pearl, we're not often representing ourselves well, and we're damn sure not representing the quote unquote black community. And I will often think that maybe perhaps we're even reflecting some of the black fatigue that everybody's complaining about and referencing for sure. JQ, you up next. Welcome, good sir.
Hey, what's up, man? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you perfect, man. What's going on?
Good, man. Hey, I really appreciate what you're doing in space. Like others have said, I'm a newer subscriber to you, so appreciate all the work you've done, and thank you for approaching this topic specifically with intellectual honesty. Want to shout you out for that for sure. So I think this topic is just to kind of give you context. I'm more like independent. I'm not really I'm probably left-leaning independent more than I am like right-leaning, but just to kind of color why I have the views that I have. But I also listen to what conservatives have to say. So first, black fatigue is like kind of two things to me.
Okay.
It's kind of like a dumping ground and a grift.
Ooh, I like that. Hold on. He started it off right. Hold on. Say that shit again. Say that again. Say it again.
It is both a dumping ground and a grift.
Woo. Go ahead.
It is an engineered grift because think about how this got in the lexicon, right?
Mm-hmm.
It started in the conservative space, the conservative creator space, X. You know,
just to be fair, more recently, it was originally
yeah.
coined in 2020 by a black woman describing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so what happens with Black fatigue is algorithmic like engagement. Like it's all engineered. Like Elon was exposed. Well, I'll say Elon exposed. Elon rolled out a feature that indirectly exposed the kind of grift that was going on with some of these MAGA accounts being troll farms in India, Nigeria, Southeast Asia, whatever. And so they would retweet, or he would sometimes quote tweet the same talking points you just talked about earlier in your earlier monologue that the folks come on here and say about Black fatigue. And so that creates a perspective that this issue is just so important and it's just happening everywhere.
And
so,
groupthink. Yeah, it creates groupthink, literally. Yeah.
It literally just is the perfect breeding ground for it. And so now you have Black degeneracy just getting signal boosted. Because it's easy to get to be a part of that engagement algorithm that all those people on that side of the political spectrum engage in and retweet because we're easy to punch down on. I mean, how far would you get running the Latino fatigue? How far would you get with Asian fatigue? How far would you get with? I know I'm not going to say any platform. I'm gonna be quiet, but we know where I'm going.
One day.
Yeah, but like you wouldn't get far with Black people. You can get away with it because there's money in it. You can monetize. It's an emotional argument to get you feeling some type of way. It's why the 1350, the Black crime, doesn't bother me, because if someone's telling me that, I'm like, okay, what do you want to do about it?
Ooh, you tapping in on what I was going. One of my responses will be that.
Yeah, what are you gonna do about it? Like, okay, how does crime happen? What are the conditions that make crime happen in a city or in a society? Because I can take you to Colombia and show you the same dynamic. I can take you to Brazil, so show you the same dynamic. I can take you to Mexico, show you the same dynamic. Like lack of resources, money, family, like a lot of crime comes from that foundation. So if you're not talking about fixing that or mentoring somebody or creating a funnel for them to get out of that, I mean, you're just here ranting to me because you just feel like you want to feel better by punching down on a Black person for whatever reason. You got your reason. You feel a certain way. That's fine. I'm not saying that you didn't have a negative experience with a Black person, but you are being farmed.
I appreciate. I didn't even think about that part that you mentioned in terms of what came out with the locations of where all of these pages were, and these were pages that looked like it would be a Black person running it, and they were the ones peddling a lot of this shit. And this stuff was in, like you said, India, Nigeria, various spots, other spots in Asia. Like it was like, oh my God. And these were big pages too, that were just constantly pushing ratchet shit, ghetto shit, talks about Black fatigue, and it wasn't even Americans.
Right. And that's and I say it's a grift because you won't see certain creators talk about. I mean, we just had a kid shoot up a school. They didn't talk about that. A Black person was loud at Walmart will make its way all through the ranks. I mean, especially if they commit a murder. But you know, if the creators aren't even going to say about stuff like that happens, but they're just waiting for, you know, like I said, whatever signal boosted Black degeneracy gets out there, that's the money maker. That's the money machine, because it's all rage bait. It's all meant to play on your fears and your concerns. And I'm not saying Black fatigue isn't a concern. I'm just saying the discussion is very contextual.
Facts.
And you have to understand what you're seeing online isn't really like real. Like you can go on Elon Musk's feed right now on X. Go through all of the stuff. I bet you half of the stuff he's quote tweeting is from a foreign account. And you've probably seen the talking points that same account is making in the YouTube comments and whatever else. And I also want to get to my point about dumping ground. It's also a dumping ground for longstanding trauma. I was called white. I was called all sorts of names. I was teased for how I acted. I wasn't black enough. Like,
yeah,
it's another way to get. And I'm not taking away from that grievance, but I'm just saying it's just a way to pile on. Like, hey, I'm tired of, like, just it's another thing to add in your cap, and you're kind of like mad at the community from stuff that happened years ago, and you're projecting it on, just adding more fuel to the fire.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. And again, I was on Daily Rap Crew a couple weeks ago in New York. Shout out to those fellas for sure. And I would distinctly remember, man, that one of the discussions we had was about a lot of Africans that come here and how they're raised and what they're taught and what they're shown is almost primarily exclusively prior to coming here. Actually, it is primarily exclusive to what they're seeing online and what's trending, what's going viral. And when they get here, and some of them talk about when they come here as children, they get called like African booty scratcher and shit like that. And they're still holding on to that as 40-year-old adults to talk about their dislike for the black community.
Exactly. I'm like, yo, I said that when I was 16 years old, man. Like, they fried me too when I was 16.
Yeah. And it's crazy true. It's what you pointed out, man. I love both these points, which is true, is you're also having black people that were hurt in the past by other black people who now sees this as an opportunity to be accepted by another group. And I've seen that grift. I've seen that approach. And it's unfortunate because, like, at the end of the day, it's true where it's like I've been threatened and told that they want to hang me. I've been called crazy name and called the N-word multiple times, and it doesn't really shape my overall view of white people in general. I just got to recognize and acknowledge, some are good people and some are assholes, and that's kind of how I view life. And I would love for people to view me and my community that way. And I experienced it definitely when I'm in my last relationship, which was an interracial relationship. When I was in an interracial relationship, which was the first one, the only one I ever been in part of. That was the first time I got a lot of negative comments and stares and comments and stuff about the fact that I was with a non-black woman. And did that shape my view that like all black people are assholes? No, but it did inform me further about what they're capable of if you don't live, talk, dress, or speak in the way that they want you to. And I get it. I sense it. But I appreciate you kind of recognizing that nuance from both angles and sides, because I think it is both a grift and it is also a place where people who have been hurt, disrespected, and felt like they've never been fully accepted, they can now run to a space where now they can be validated, where they can be heard. And now, let's talk about the blacks and how ignorant they are. And And the reality is, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, man. This idea that like people think that you connecting with and siding with and piling on any particular group to make yourself looks better. The people that you're doing that in front of, they recognize that if you're willing to turn on the group that you're from, if you're willing to not defend anything and you're all about fitting in with them, they don't really trust you like that, like you may think they do. They just see you as nothing more than potentially a really good, trustworthy house slave. Just a little bit better than the ones on the field, bro. Like they still, I'm telling you, if they're shitting on the people that look like you, just because they see you as a house slave and not a field slave, don't mean they don't see your ass as a slave.
Yeah, they see you as a token to be spent, and they don't know that. They won't know until it's too late.
Yeah, and the crazy part is you won't realize it till you get your N-word wake-up call, right? And all you got to do is talk about Charlie Kirk, talk about Trump, talk about their sacred cows, and then you're going to see a whole new side to them, right? Like, I know the whatchamacallit twins, the Hodge twins, they recently found out that it ain't all peaches and cream when they was talking to a guy that was talking about wanting to live in and be in and build an all-white town. They said, well, are we invited? He was like, no. Like, Right? It was like all we've been doing, all we've been working hard for. We ain't invited. Like, no, you're not.
No.
So I appreciate that, man. That both those perspectives are legit, man. This was dope, man, for sure. I appreciate.
I just have one last thing to say, if I might. I just want to say, I don't know if you may cover this in a future point, but we as people, to fix Black fatigue, we need to take the skills that we have learned from our jobs, from being in other communities, knowing other communities, and bring that back. Because I'm really close with other friends that are like Asian. I've learned a lot about business, how to use debt to leverage like an asset. There's a lot of skills that we need to just come together and teach each other and
do shit like this.
Exactly like this. Like educate each other so that we can actually go out there and pass on this knowledge to maybe a brother who needs it, whose life is going astray. We can lead him like, hey man, you need to make money. Hey, you can make a lot of money as an electrician. Let me show you how to do
I agree.
Stuff like
I
that.
agree.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And believe it or not, that's part of what this platform is for. Not to just display that there's a whole nother side of Black masculinity, that are being a Black man. We can be educated. We don't have to try to be white. And we can give pushback to Black people, white people, Republicans, the Democrats. It don't matter. We can we can have thoughtful discussions. We can question things. We can learn. We can grow. We can adapt. And this is just one of many channels that I'm hoping in 2026 is able to do that. And then when we have these type of discussions, it kind of plants seeds in other people to do things that me and you couldn't even imagine, man. So thank you, bro.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. All right, y'all. So let's see. All right. So, the queen herself is pulled up in the building. Appreciate you, Miss Maggie. If you guys have not followed her, if you have not followed her content or watched our interview, please make sure you do. Thank you, ma'am, for the $9.99 for sure. And best believe I didn't forget about our message with me, you, and you know who. I'll be messaging y'all shortly about what we were originally discussing a couple weeks ago for sure. All right, y'all, 2 more points, and then I'm going to add the last couple of people that's in the chat to kind of add some for additional discussions with this. Point number 6, Black fatigue. Black feelings, history, experiences, and the need for reparatory responses will only be seen as good and accurate if they agree with the white majority's perspective and analysis. In their mind, oppression, racism, unfair advantages, biased hiring, school enrollment, and discrimination. If white people in mass acknowledge it, then it's real and it's happening. I'm going to state that I'm going to just rephrase that to make sure you all caught what it is that I stated. There are people in this culture that won't acknowledge any of those things unless they perceive that it's happening to white people. They'll complain about being replaced. Some of them will complain about being the great white replacement. And then they'll see undocumented immigrants getting on buses and planes and being flown to urban cities where a huge percentage of Black people, Black and brown people live, and take their tax dollars and giving it to those people who just got here yesterday. And it will be white people that'll claim they're being replaced. So they'll recognize in the workplace, in the work environment, in certain spaces and institutions, hey, we're getting replaced. This is just a reverse form of discrimination. They'll acknowledge it when they feel like it's happening with them. Now the experience matters. Now the perspectives matter. Now all the bias that's against them, now it's so real that it can change an election. But when other people who both historically and presently can point to similar things or even worse things, victim mentality. Full of shit. So realize if the person in front of you only is willing to acknowledge those things, if it's happening to white people, why continue engaging in them? Seriously. If you know they're not going to acknowledge it if it's happening to Palestinians, if it's happening to Black people, if it's happening to Arab and Muslims, Latinos, they don't give a fuck. So if it's very clear and obvious, and Doug said it himself, Oftentimes, they're not even using data. They're not using any reference point other than just their feelings vibes. So when they're acknowledging what's happening to white men, what's happening to white people, they'll talk about, I won't use the G word, but white G word when it comes to them being replaced and all these people from all over the world coming into their respective places and countries where they're the majority. And we're the ones that have Planned Parenthoods we don't own and didn't put there in our communities and being pushed on us with 20 plus million abortions. Nothing. Crazy. All right, y'all. So, so in keeping with that, this is a blatant and obvious example. All right. Black resumes. Just as a clear-cut example, studies in current times, multiple studies, multiple experiments, repeatedly shown a discriminatory approach when it comes to Black-sounding names for Black foundational Americans. If they change the name and had the resume be the same, again and again and again, the stats say what's happening, who's getting hired, who's getting their resumes tossed to the side, who's getting callbacks, who's not. And they haven't even seen a picture. And of some of the studies even showed, and I wish I was able to find a clip, but I just didn't have the time. They were even able to show that statistically, Black Americans with no criminal record were on even status in terms of likelihood for getting a callback interview or getting hired as a white person with a criminal record. And they'll gaslight you into telling you this isn't real and isn't happening. Because remember, slavery ended so long ago. And the Civil Rights Bill was passed in 64, something like that. So in their world view, Black people have nothing to talk about or complain about since the 60s, according to them. These are many of the people who are talking and referencing, quote unquote, Black fatigue. To be fair, not all of them. Some of them have legitimate gripes, issues and concerns. And some of them, like Doug and myself, we see it. But there's also people who are so goddamn ignorant and biased that they'll only acknowledge any of this stuff if it's affecting them in the group that they're a part of. So I'm going to get to point number 7, but before I do, let me make sure I catch a couple more people that's currently sitting up in the chat as we speak. Next on the list, Chaos Rain. Are you? Let me see if you're there. Are you there, good sir?
So I am here.
Hey, welcome. You've been supported. Hey, what's going on, man?
Yes, I mean, well, I do what I can. You know, some sports depends on every channel. So you know, I do what I can, like anybody else on YouTube. Mm-hmm. As you know, I'm a content creator, so obviously, my presence, I try to get my own intake. My question, Jeff, have you even heard or read the book by the Black woman that wrote this back in 22 years ago, since 2003, A Black Fatigue?
No, the one I referenced and quoted at the beginning. Let me look up her name real quick. Her name is Mary Frances Winters.
Okay. Yeah, because what I've noticed, I'm not saying most Black people hear about books that's written by Black authors that wrote about the Black struggle, but I find it very weird that is the other side, a group of people that brought this to our attention, and this is something this woman lay out clearly. And I can't talk about the book because I never read the book. You haven't read the book, but it looks like they have read something and they brought back some to us, to the public now, 20 some years later, talking about the Black experience and try to reverse it and try to use it themselves in the picture. That's something that you cannot experience because 1, you're not Black, and 2, you are so privileged to the point that you're arrogant to the issues Black people's plight. So the strange thing about this, right, and it's good that you talk about it, that when we talk about our experience, it's not something to play with. This is something that we still go through today, and we shed light to not only the people that's the majority of the group, but to others that's not aware, especially those that's come here to this country or don't understand how a system like this works, either in your favor or not your favor. And to some people say that, we don't have no fatigue and they're frustrated with us. Majority of Black people are frustrated with the dominant society. But you see, we had to live life accordingly because we really can't do much now, but do what we can do, be productive people in this Western world. That it's against us systematically. I mean, I'll tell you another book that I had brought on as a guest maybe 2-3 years ago called The Black Tax. And it was written by a Black man. He's a self-businessman. He's not from America. But he understands the plight better than most people. You get me? The point is that every year I notice they come with new labels to constantly make fun of Black folks and to truly point the finger that they're going through something that Black people have not been going through since the existence of America.
Right.
Like what you experience out like is something new, but you put and plot against us for our progression for decades on decades to the point now we're not sure where we are going to go as Black man, Black woman in the next 30 years. And I go beyond the 2050, what they said, what was going to happen to us economically. We look beyond that. What's happening is now that's already setting the template that's we're here now. If they project some kind of Black people, it's already happened already. And it's already here. You don't have to wait 30 years. No, it's here already. Because we're now in the age of technology now. And as they weed out more of what they consider undesirables, it's going to play a very challenging for us moving progressively. You read 1984. I heard about this book, and I got to look up if it's still there. But if they wrote books, and we know who wrote these books, people that's the ones that, we can't name because they have these little tiny hats. They already lay out the template of how they want the world to function in the next century. That's a script. A well-written script. And I tell people, is it playing out today? Look at the environment today. What they wrote back before, I guess, when we were born, around that time, that same decade, is now fruition today in the 21st century, the first 20 years of the first 21st century. So they know what they're doing, and they play very well like a chessboard. And we're not seeing the playing field of what is head, So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the things, everybody has varying opinions to the degree of how much is controlled, orchestrated, manipulated in terms of our reality, the news, what we're seeing, what we're experiencing, what's happening to us. This is the caveat when it comes to how I view it from a different lens. At the end of the day, you as a individual Black person, Latino person, white person, et cetera, you still have a choice on whether or not you're going to do certain things, right? So,
correct.
CIA puts certain drugs in our communities, right? There were various different groups that were in the same community, including Black people, and there were some that partook and some that didn't. When guns were being introduced, there were some that used them, some that didn't. And when the opportunities presented itself during COVID to ransack and run through Walmarts and rob and take things, some did it and some didn't. And I think we give too much credit to outside groups for creating the parameters for temptation and not enough focus on our willingness to fall for it. And I think that if we got better at acknowledging, like, the internet's been out for a minute for us. Social media is out. Everybody's having a conversation. Everybody's fully aware. Not everybody, but damn near everybody over the age of 21 at this point is fully aware of what many of the traps are.
Yes.
Of how you can substantially make life substantially harder for yourself and your family and your community. And we know the game. We learn the game. We watch the movies. We watch the shows. We see documentaries. People have talked about the stuff ad nauseum. And then you still have people that look like us that fall for it anyway. And it's like they can't use the reference point with me of, well, I grew up in the hood. I lived in the projects at various points in my life. I lived in the hood. You can't say, well, it's not a lot of opportunity. I'm working in the very area that apparently there's no opportunity. Right? And I've seen people who are older, substantially older than me, working in the same company, working in the same field that I've surpassed 5 years ago because they got comfortable, they got lax, they didn't push themselves, and I did. So Anton Daniels is a great example of this, where at one point in time, he had to move back home with either her parents or his wife, and now he's a multi-decker millionaire. And there's also the other side of, yes, Black people use drugs at the same rate, and they're checked far more often and arrested for it far more often than white people. Both things can be true. And it's like, well, if you know that, why have it on you? Right? So, yeah, and it's the crazy part. You know you don't live in a predominantly Black space. You know who's the majority. You know you claim that the little hats and the white folks and the white supremacists and this group and that group is out against you. And you know, in essence, what many of the answers are. And most of us are falling for the easy traps anyway. Not most of us, but you get just a huge percentage. Yeah. So I look at it from both. I tend to try to look at it from both angles because it allows me to still acknowledge whatever it is that I have control over, whatever it is that I can do, I should do. And I think when we lose sight of that, this is where you get to these commentators and folks that always want to blame it on the system and the man and the white man and the this group and that group, and not nearly enough about what the fuck can you do, right? So that's kind of where I'm at, where I don't not acknowledge all the things you're talking about because I've read it and seen it and see and can point clearly that a lot of this stuff is there. It's just that it's not enough to stop me from, well, I'm not going to go to work today because I'm Black and I'm oppressed. Like, I should stop. I still got to do it.
Stop it. You know, and for some person that thinks that, say, do you work for yourself? No. Well, you know, I'm not saying what you should do, but don't be lazy. Which is, man, I mean, you don't have the luxury to do that, you know. So a man said, because I did not work, I'm Black. I mean, we're not really privileged like that. One thing I want to say, last thing, in regards to yesterday's video, and it was more based focused on women. Do you think that the live stream that yesterday was your best work by date?
Say it, ask it again.
No, the video you did, the live stream did about the truth for the ladies. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Do you think it was
last night?
Yeah, you think the video you did, and it was very long, and I gone back to replay. Do you think that's the best work, or you think there's more to come? Because as from your perspective, I watched it, and I think by far, I'm not sure how much views it got. But that
I think it's like 6,000-7,000 now. Yeah.
I think that should be the video. That should be the great awakening for any woman. If anything else besides what was talked about, the ladies, this way, this synthesize it and breaks down very exquisite in under 2 hours.
Yeah, you're talking about the single by choice is a lie from last night.
Yes, the live. Yes, this right here. This right here, in my opinion. That's probably the better works. Besides the interview I had with Dr. Curry, I think this right here, anything else, if women don't understand, if any man, you don't have to really talk much. Give him this long video. Let him sit down, listen to it, watch it, conceptualize it, and understand what you're getting at. This breaks down to any other video by far this year. I mean, and remember, Kevin been doing this for years now, and he did good works. But this right, I think it breaks down like a baby, like a child to understand.
Yeah. Hey, bro,
that was purpose. Yeah.
I appreciate that, bro. I got some people that reached out to me. A few people called me about it. My wife, she was watching a lot of my stuff, said by far that was the best episode I've had so far, which is kind of crazy. But because I thought the Charlie Kirk and Obama episodes are probably the best at those points for me. But I can't lie, man, I really enjoyed that episode last night. And we'll see how the episodes like this do, because each topic, you know, some people watch it, some people don't. But I'm going to be me, and I'm going to try to keep it as real as I possibly can. And in hindsight, I'm trying to take the same. I'm just not doing a lot of reactions in this particular episode like I did last night, and that's really probably the only.
Last night reaction makes more sense because you didn't take any normal clips. You took the clip and you break it down to the clinical perspective overall. So when they watch it, right, we got lapskicks. You hone in saying, all right, this is it. Not only is this an example, but I'm breaking down to you why and how it affects you today even more. So when you watch all these clips of women complaining and stuff, there's reasons for every action of a reaction. So like I said, I might do reaction because I think I gotta watch a little more times to really home it, because most times I go through videos and I'll say one time and that's it. But yesterday's video, it's like, no, you have to watch that like 2-3 times.
I've listened to it. Listen, bro, I've listened to it 3 times driving, and everything. And I can't lie, man. Like I actually realized, like, yo, it was so responsive. So many people were engaged in it, and how it's growing faster than some of my interviews. So we'll see what comes from it. But shout out to you, man, for killing it on your end. I've definitely watched quite a bit of your content for sure. And listen, bro, we gonna do more of this for sure.
Okay. Hey, is that what's name? Bobby Brown's first album on the back?
Yes, sir.
The vinyl edition?
Yes, sir. I got vinyls, man.
Yeah. He won the best artist of the end of 1989. Before
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that album, because that Perpetuum to Stardom, that album. So people don't understand when Bobby really blew up, that before the 80s ended, back in 88 or 89, that was the album that really took him Perpetuum to start.
Nice. Yeah, man.
If you get that sign, get that sign. If you can find him and he's still around, have that signature put somewhere nice and safe, because that's rare right now.
I might reach out to him, and you never know. I may get him to pull up one day. You never know, bro.
All right. Thank you again for having me up, Mr. St. James. We'll do this again soon.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, y'all. So listen, I got one more point, and then I got my potential ways of how to respond to this whole discussion relating to quote unquote black fatigue. So I have another super chat, Fan Mac, where $5. I appreciate you for the $5, and it says it is about poverty, not race. So-called ghetto behavior comes from deprivation and neglect, exists in poor white areas too, but it is highlighted more. Yes or no? The reality is there's poor sections in the country and there's poor areas all around the world that doesn't have anything close to the high propensity for violence that's happening in and around our urban communities specifically. It's just a reality. Even in our country, there's poor white places and spaces that the crime is not anywhere close to what's been happening in some of these cities, in terms of the disproportionate rates of how it's happening. Now, with that said, I've also looked at the stats that reflected and showed very clearly and obviously that also a lot of white crime doesn't get solved. Interesting. So a lot of black crime tends to actually be more scrutinized, more like apparently it's easier to solve. And I also think that we tend to delineate or differentiate rather low-level street crimes versus white-collar crimes. White-collar crimes are typically people who are in a totally different economic tax base, and a lot of black people don't fall into that category, whether you realize it or not. So take with that as you will, but that typically means that white crime isn't going to be seen, scrutinized, or investigated or concluded on in any way, shape, or form as it will be with people who tend to have less resources and are lower in the economic totem pole, so to speak. So it's just different ways of kind of how to analyze that. It really isn't just as much about poverty, because if that was the case, then you would actually assume the numbers would actually be substantially worse in the poorest areas than they actually are. It's oftentimes, a lot of times, the males between a particular age bracket. If poverty was the issue, why aren't all the people that's older that are females and males not doing anything close to this level of crime as a specific subgroup, right? Now people could say, well, it's the fatherlessness, which is an issue. People can say it's the lack of quality education and educators. People can point to a whole host of different things and how we got there. But for a lot of times, and this is a very liberal argument, it's the poverty, it's the poor. I promise you, man, your boy was living for the last 2 years off on Kensington Ave. And you want to know the craziest part about all those people who were on those drugs out there on the harshest stuff? You typically, more often than not, were extremely safe walking around it. And they were homeless and drug addicts. So gotta keep that in mind for sure. What's going on, y'all? So listen, real quick, y'all. Point number 7 I'm about to get to, and make sure if you haven't done so, please make sure that you like this. Send it to as many people as you can. Please, this is my final episode for this particular week before I get to next week in terms of some surprise guests for interviews, as well as some additional dope content that I have stored up for you guys for sure as we get ready for the holidays for sure. Just skimming through real quick to see if I've missed anything. Great conversation, mix of politics and culture of the Black community. Yeah, and believe it or not, this is an ongoing conversation between whites, blacks, non-foundational Black Americans, Black and brown people from all over the world, Latinos, etc. It's dope because it's like a lot of times when people have these conversations, it's a lot of getting offended and getting emotional. And it's like, in reality, it's like there's a way to view and analyze this stuff without even attaching your feelings and emotions to it. And I think that we get further ahead when we have those type of combos, believe it or not, for sure. All right, y'all. So point number 7, and this is going to be good. When I mentioned earlier, right? And this is the part I want y'all to really, really pay attention to. Out of the first 6 points that I've made, point number 7 arguably is the key one for why we're even dealing with and talking about this stuff to begin with. The intentional decision to elevate the worst aspects of the culture, often being done on both sides, is what contributes to this issue. I'm going to say it again. The intentional decision to elevate the worst aspects happening within the community and the culture is often being done both by people on the far right that are white nationalists and white supremacists. They want to elevate and talk about all the worst things happening in the culture and society. But it's also happening within the community and on the left and amongst progressives and Democrats. They elevate and often celebrate some of the worst aspects that's happening in our culture. Now, people could be no. I'm gonna show a couple things to make sure we all on the same damn page. Let's start with this.
It's good to see you in the new year. You know, no one could have told me that when I went down to Austin, now it looks like a little bit over a year ago, that I would be running for Congress.
Baby, because these people, they are crazy. Because they always talk about how Christian they is. Yeah, I don't know how many of them on that side are getting divorced because they getting caught up sleeping with their co-workers, staffers, interns, all the things. Yeah, you ain't got to believe me. Just go Google. You'll find some of it. I'm telling you. And the wives is being messy and petty. They putting it in.
Let me look at this real quick. Meg Thee Stallion opens Harris campaign rally with vulgar performance, unbothered and relaxing, with X-rated unsavory lyrics. Let's go over some of these lyrics real quick. Lyrics of the song, which was released in 2020, include Megan bragging about being that bitch. Pussy like water. I'm unbothered and relaxing, the artist 29 raps at one point. N-words say I taste like sugar, but ain't shit sweet. We gonna blame white people for that? When I was younger as a Black child, teenager, you know, I was a big fan of 50 Cent, Kanye West, you know, just they're very yin yang twins. Like I was really immersed in the culture. But even as a teenager, I knew how to separate and parse out the music versus the lifestyle. You have grown ass adult women and men that justify this shit. To this day, for a presidential rally, they are still doubling down to this day and talking about Hulk Hogan and Amber Rose to justify Glorilla and Meg Thee Stallion being brought as representatives to court our vote. They did it. They displayed it. They showed it. And 92%, and another high percentage of the men as well, said this ain't a big deal. This is what society and people outside of the community thinks of us. Now, reimagine, take Kamala Harris out, put a white candidate in. Would y'all have responded and felt as supportive, or would you have saw it as potentially disrespectful? You know what? What if a Republican what if Donald Trump had ran and asked black common performers, hey, I got to get the black vote. Can you perform this song with these type of lyrics? And make sure you get a good twerk session in, and make sure you show revealing stuff for my presidential rally, because I got to get the black vote. An intentional decision to elevate the worst aspects of the culture is often being done by both sides. Both sides, just in different ways. How to respond. Number one, an easy way, especially if 4 or 5 of those 7 points that I raised applies to the person in front of you or is trying to engage with you virtually. Well, the first way to respond is you don't. Silence. Whether they're talking about a community or a specific person, at the end of the day, if it's not you and it doesn't apply to you, you can actually have the choice to decide if you'll even acknowledge it. Reimagine when Pearl was on the platform, right? And believe it or not, I don't even think she started with talking about Black fatigue. I actually think she started about talking about women specifically and how women tend to like bad boys and criminals, especially when they're younger in their late teens and early 20s. And then it eventually segued into, well, a lot of Black women do this for sure, right? Reimagine that conversation. Let's say she had started it talking about race and Black fatigue and how Black people act. Now reimagine a panel full of Black people with Pearl or Nick Fuentes or any other person that wants to use this particular talking point. Now reimagine how much more powerful it would have been if a panel full of people who's there to talk decide not only to not respond, but to continue to engage in a conversation with other people. Not even worth a reaction or response. That's your Black fatigue. I would have argued that would have been way more powerful than much of what was done afterwards and said. Number 2, be interested in the statistics of this discussion from multiple angles and sides. Just be interested in it in the event that you may need to reference and use it. Number 3, be interested in their reference point of experience. Doug alluded to it. They're typically using just emotion in their experience to talk about this type of topics. So data and statistics may not be effective. Historical references may not be important to them at all. What would be much more effective is to ask them a simple question. Based on your lens, regardless of whatever color you are, and your perception of how you feel and view about this prospective community. Fair, fine, cool. Do you think your experience is legitimate? Do you think that your experience of this fatigue and what you're seeing and how much of a problem this is, do you think that that's legit and we should honor that and acknowledge that and see it as potentially true and valid? And do you feel that way about other people who think very differently than you and have a totally different set of experiences? Or do you think the only legitimate experiences are the ones where people are tired of or hate Black people? Because if that's the case, then it seems like you're only elevating you're only elevating anti-Black experiences or anti-Black feelings about Black people. Unless, of course, you want to acknowledge that people who think the exact opposite, their feelings and opinions and perspectives are also valid. Or do you think that they're whining and just being victims? But when you whine and bitch and be overly emotional, that's valid. That's far more interesting way of seeing, engaging where they actually are. Another thing, ask questions. I think a lot of time we try to start with trying to validate and place these people who use these terms and use this methodology and don't give a fuck about nuance and the actual real discussion. Get curious. I didn't got the clip, but you can look it up easily for yourself in terms of the lead attorney in Pearl. He did it perfectly. He was more curious with why it was that she was so interested in statistics and narratives and frameworks surrounding Black people and Black men, and had little to no information or data, or even had comparable examples of what she was referencing when it came to Black people. When he asked her, what is it for white people? What is it for white men? Crickets. I hear it all the time. I see it all the time. People that are so passionate about a group and community that they're not a part of and don't live around, and the evil and viciousness and nastiness and ghetto-ness and ratchetness that's happening within their own respective groups, that data wasn't important to them that day, apparently. And the lead attorney was never angry, was never upset, never raised his tone or volume. He just was curious enough to find out why she's so as invested. Why are you so much more invested in this particular group in comparison to others? Why is that? Is it out of genuine concern? Like, are you going to those cities? Are you working in those environments? Are you actively trying to solve the issue, or are you just trying to monetize and grift, as the gentleman stated, about said issue? It's just a thought. And obviously, with that, inquiring about their motives in comparison to other groups and issues. And again, with the motives, are you try to explore? So now what? Are you trying to help? Or you just want to critique? Are you doing something about it? Or you just want to bitch about it? Like, where are we going with this? Are you just a talker? You just a yapper? Or are you actually doing something actively to try to fix the ills? And then craziest, as dope as it is to be super invested and want to help in said community that's not maybe your own, reimagine if you had that same level of interest and focus to help in the communities that you're a part of with y'all issues, so that we can all attend a church and not have to worry, attend a school and not have to worry. You know, maybe we all won't have to be overly concerned and worried about going to a movie theater because of y'all, right? How about that? How about be as interested in helping and addressing that as you are in a community that you're not interested in doing shit for, especially in the areas that you're talking about? And last but not least, recognize that most of the people who engage in this stuff, especially those who don't care about studies, those who aren't approaching this in good faith and whatnot, they're not interested in recognizing nuance, guys, or the full spectrum of experience of what it means to have grown up with our lineage, our experiences. how the world, not really the world, the country has treated us historically and presently. They don't give a fuck about the history, the challenges, the barriers. They're only interested in the negative behaviors in culture that and they've resulted to a conclusion that's extremely simplified. If we were as concerned about them as they are about us, I'd imagine many of us would start reevaluating with the sheer amount of white female teachers that are constantly in the news every month, sleeping with students and being inappropriate with them. Are we at a place where we legitimately have to start to question and ask whether or not we all as a country and collective should feel comfortable with white female teachers continuing to teach in America? With the hundreds or thousands of them that are constantly being caught on an annual basis doing inappropriate things with students? No one thinks like that. No one talks like that. It's happening quite a lot. Zero concern. Zero concern. We saw somebody take out Charlie Kirk. There's still no fatigue about what the hell are we going to do with all of these white males. Nothing. But then when it comes to fatigue about a community like ours, regardless of all the historical issues or all the present challenges, it's fake interest. This is a combo of, like the one gentleman said, a small percentage of people I think are legit. I think there's a percentage of people who are just being highly emotional and reactive, even though this probably has affected them 2 to 3 times in their life max. Doug said it himself. A lot of them are basing this off of social media. They don't even live in parts and area. I went to college and there was white people that said that they had never talked to or dealt with a black person in 2010. Listen, y'all. I said it at the beginning, I'll say it again. Never try to be accepted or understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. So I got a couple more people that are guests on here for sure. So let me make sure I see them real quick. And then I'm going to go through the chat to see if there's any super chats. And I hope that this was helpful in terms of how to move, how to engage with this stuff, or don't even engage with it. And there's just a different approach of how we can approach this type of stuff. The reality is like, this is a test. A lot of us have been failing. And it comes a time when we got to start to, for lack of a better word, grow up. Doug said it himself, and I kind of got to that place too. I really don't care if a white person wants their son or daughter to marry a white person. I really don't care if an Asian says it. I've heard it my whole life with black people. I don't care. I really, really, really don't care. I don't care if you want to do an interracial thing. I don't care if you don't. All that I care about is that you don't do something to infringe on my freedoms or safety. And I'll try to do the same. And hopefully I won't view you through the lens of the white female teachers that's sleeping with students, or the white males that are doing inappropriate things with children, or shooting up various nightclubs and schools and churches, etc. And I can just view you as a human being, despite what's happening in your group and community. It'd be dope if that would happen for us one day. Social media isn't helping. And I also acknowledge, like I stated with point number 7, when we support these things and prop these things up, that's making us look bad. Part of it going viral is because we're allowing it to go viral. Reimagine during an election cycle where anybody takes the worst elements that makes us look shitty, and we just en masse did not show up to vote for them. That's called drawing a line in the sand. Meg Thee Stallion shouldn't be a representative of how to court and get Black people to support you politically. Not her. That whole Jasmine Crockett bullshit, remixing how she want to speak, forgetting how to talk with a person on her level politically. Stop the nonsense. We got to stop looking at the worst, derogatory, stereotypical ways of how we're being seen and shown, not caring about it, supporting it, praising it, versus stating, you know what, man, this ain't about sucking up to white people or trying to be like white people or any other group. This is about drawing a line and establishing we need to take back control of who we are and how we're seen. If we put more time and energy and focus into that, I imagine that when conversations like this comes up, we won't lean into acting ratchet, acting ghetto, acting highly overly emotional. Because we've been practicing how to approach conducting ourselves when the cameras come on, when we're in public, and how we engage with people that look like us. It's just a thought. Rockmaster 1 stated, respect, fam. A lot of this is smoke and mirrors. We are a particular people. It's biblical. Appreciate you for the $10, good sir, for sure. Eric Lloyd writes, young men, I agree with the brothers who spoken on the panel regarding keeping the course in your purpose. Do not be ashamed of educating yourself, no matter what others say. It'll be worth it. He looks like he gifted some more people with the membership for sure. Thank you, good sir, for that. Hide that. And another one. Timothy Blewett, 6576. Appreciate you for the $10. Home training in the FBA community was abandoned as liberal feminism influenced our people. I do agree, although I do think there was multiple other factors at play that kind of contributed to the decline in things that we kind of grew up with historically that we've kind of completely, it seems, abandoned en masse for sure. Unity is strength. One writes, Black fatigue, it's both a dumping ground and an engineered grift. Yeah, man. I think that that my brother, that was a key bar. And I think that there's some legit stuff to that. Although I do think that it's also a reflection to a degree on things that all of us can see with our own eyeballs. So like I said, I saw what I saw in the presidential election. I've seen what I've seen, not nearly every day, but I've seen shit like this at work. I've seen it outside of work. You know, that stuff exists, but it's not nearly as frequent and as often as I think people try to make it out to be either as well. All right, y'all. So I'm going to bring up a couple more guests and then I'm going to wrap things up because your boy is tired. And this is the third show in a row this week. And hopefully that y'all can support it and send it to everybody that you know. And we'll see where it goes, man. We'll see where it goes for sure, because I think that when we have these more nuanced, deeper convos, you know, I think we get further personally. I know the work fellow Black people who have philosophical differences, but we understand a bigger picture, like Malcolm X mentioned. Yeah. Listen, Malcolm all the way for me. Stokely Carmichael, for those that don't know, is my personal favorite civil rights leader and icon from that particular era, for sure. Feel free to look him up if you aren't, Kwame Ture, if you haven't heard or looked up about him, for sure. Couture Leotard said, please consider giving money to young Black ballerinas. Oh, wow. They come from the hood, but are refined through the art of ballet. There is not enough of us. Wow. I never even thought about that. And again, this is a great example where there's things happening that people don't even know about that we can actually shape and shift so much. We just saw this year the quarter zip trend exploding. Nobody outside the community decided that for us. We just did. And for about a month strong, it went everywhere. We just decided things that we were doing wasn't cool anymore. Just decided it. Just decided. You know what? Nah, we changing it. We changed it. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. Now reimagine if we applied this in all the areas of problems. I want y'all to be like Charleston White and call the police more when you see stuff out of whack. I want more Carltons in our community. I really do. I want more Cosby Show archetypes. I want more two-parent households again. I want those things to be a real legit thing. I don't want as many Planned Parenthoods and bars on every other street block. I don't want churches that ain't doing shit for real in the community, taking our money and nothing and it's never returning back into the community. I don't like it. I don't want it. I want us to make some major. Hey, what's going on, bro? Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Just showing love. Keep up with the great work, Brody. Appreciate you, brother. I want you on for sure, man. I'm trying to get the whole crew, and I feel like if I get all y'all on before you know, Big Dog might have to pull up himself too, man. Appreciate you, man. Make sure that y'all subscribe to this brother's channel. He's very entertaining, very real. I really appreciate him for sure. Abso-freaking-lutely. So listen, y'all, I got a couple more guests, so we can get to that, and then I'm going to close us out for sure. And I hope that this was a helpful, interesting conversation. Obviously, it wasn't like my convo last night where the Single by Choice is a Lie. Very entertaining, very funny. 6,000-7,000 of you have watched it so far up to this point. This one will be a lot less, but I'll say that a lot of this just depends on y'all. If y'all thought it was good, if y'all thought it was meaningful, like it, subscribe, send it to 3-4 people if you can, and then hype up the video if you so see fit. The hypes really work. The hypes are even more important than the likes and subscriptions, believe it or not. The hypes is what kind of pushes it up to the top of the algorithm. Nicholas Wise 61. Oh, Nicholas Lewis, sorry. 6182. Appreciate you for the $20. First live, congrats on your current success. A challenge. Why, when we analyze ourselves, do we then what about other groups? How do we grow that way? Critical self-analysis is important. I believe we need to take ownership. Yeah, I agree. To a degree. The reason why sometimes I approach it less through the lens of, well, your group does this or your group does that. It's more from a curiosity standpoint to just get a gauge as to why it is that they're so interested and invested in said group. That's really it. And I think that that's helpful to expose their motivations of ongoing and your reason or rationale for continuing to engage in the conversation. Throwing stats and statistics about what's happening in the white community, these people don't care. They don't give a damn. It's not really about that. They may reference stats that makes their argument better, but reality is they don't give a fuck about stats. They only care about the stats that applies to their argument, to be fair. All right, so I got a few more guests on. So next on the list is Apex. Are you there? I'm going to add you right now. Apex Lux, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Man, I did not expect to be next. How you doing this evening, brother?
Listen, man, I'm tired, but I'm happy to do this type of work, man.
Yeah, man. I honestly just wanted to come on and say that, first and foremost, I'm probably among your first 20 to 30 subscribers.
Damn, for real? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, man. You've been rocking with me since the beginning then.
When you went viral with the two young ladies, the two women, I was like, who is this dude? I have my topics that I save or my little, you bookmark it. And I was like, all right, this is under the keeping a real file. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as the algorithm showed me that you existed, I was like, hold on. You were on something, and then I think you advertised, and I was like, automatic, bang, he has a channel. Cool. I don't care what you got on there. I'm gonna watch this thing grow from the sub button. So I'm subscribed. You know what I mean? So shout out to you. A lot of the things that I wanted to say, you guys touched on eloquently. So I just wanted to say a few things just briefly, kind of just statements, maybe some questions too.
Cool.
I was going to say something to the effect of like, we don't know how to separate ourselves from the trash among us.
Agreed.
And I think we got to start ignoring it. You've already mentioned it during your elevation point, and I 100% agree. I think, as a professional, I've been doing my career for about a decade. I work in behavioral therapy and social work.
Nice.
And so I don't see a lot of this stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
truth be told, yeah.
I see it when I do see it, it's more so it reflects the tax bracket, the more poor, etc. The more elevated we are, the more separate we are from these sort of stereotypes, or even the things that are not necessarily stereotypes, they actually happen and occur. I don't see a large part of it in our community like that. Another, I just kind of want to rapid fire these notes because I know you're tired. We don't control our media. We don't control the media in general, by and large.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I think a lot of this is a top-down agenda. You know, people in general view themselves through entertainment, and I think a lot of the stuff that we see about ourselves is gross and repugnant. And the question that I ask us is, why don't a larger group of us start rejecting that and view it as repugnant? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So let's sit with that for a second. In order to differentiate yourself, sometimes you're going to have to do the thing that's extremely unpopular to even get people to acknowledge A, you exist, and then B, be able to get people to then hear what it is that you got to say.
Right.
You got cats that get so offended by the damn red hat that says make masculinity great again that they can't even read the hat to acknowledge, why would I have an issue with that statement? So I'll shock people. I was just in Atlanta last weekend. 3-piece suit on in the hood for the show that Charleston White was the headliner for. I was one of the opening interviewers. 3-piece suit on, slim fitted, of course, with that red hat on, talking my shit on stage. And when it was over, person after person after person took pictures, followed me, exchanged contact information, and said, bro, man, that hat. And when you first got up there, I was thinking this. But then when you were saying what you were saying, it needed to be stated. And I think sometimes Charleston White was doing it where he was like, we need to start snitching again. I'm wearing hats like this to kind of I'm questioning all the things that we're not allowed to question. And I think one of the ways that we get there is that we have to start with being comfortable with being uncomfortable, comfortable with not being accepted, comfortable with people calling you a sellout, comfortable with people calling you a coon. If you're not willing to be viewed as an outsider, you're not willing to make a change in the community. We got too many go along, get along people in the group. Act the same way, vote the same way, ignore it, downplay it, not bring shame. We need to bring shame back.
Absolutely.
We need to bring standards back. We need to say this prostitution culture that's been normalized, that's resulted in mass high levels of single mother households and single parent households, this trashy shit, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And we got to say that when it's in our own homes and families.
100%.
So that's my first lens, is we have to get comfortable in order for correction in order to love, that may include potential correction. So if we're not willing to stand on it, if we're not willing to walk in it, and we're not willing to be ostracized and call you, God knows what they're going to call you. If you're not willing to do those things, then you're not really serious about the actual changes that need to happen. Now, me and you are doing the actual work. We're on the ground, right?
Right.
We're on the block. We're dealing with these people. We're advocating for these people. I'm hiring these people. We're trying to position these people and do what we can to advocate on the ground level.
Right.
But when I see shit that's wrong, I'm going to address it. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to intervene in whatever way I can to stop the shit.
Absolutely.
And I'll even go so far as to say, and I'm willing to draw a line with anybody. If you keep going and doing things that's harmful to yourself and to me and my community and people that look like me, you better be willing to stop doing life with me until further notice.
Facts.
That's what you said. That's what I lens. We have to draw that line, like you said, between Negroes and ninjas.
Yes.
Between Black people and hyenas.
Yep.
And actually address and acknowledge the problems in a way that's both challenging and constructive.
Well, the very people that, have highlighted these criticisms and called it and usurped Black fatigue, right? They know how to separate themselves. They say, oh, that's white trash, and they don't acknowledge them, right? They put them in a completely separate class. And we have this affinity for like grasping us all together while at the same time not addressing the problems properly. Like you said very eloquently, it's like this thing where we give too many people a pass and we don't have the discipline to keep everybody in line.
Yeah. So when I say differentiate, delineate, and separate ourselves, I'm usually talking about on a personal, practical level, not as a collective, because we still have to engage. We still have to. And what I think tends to happen is the people that are fully separated from Black community, and then they're talking about said community, they just look like an outsider.
Right.
So the Dr. Dave Anderson said it when we were talking about the problems amongst conservatives and Republicans is a lot of Black conservatives and Republicans don't even look like they know how to talk to and about Black people.
Right. They look uncomfortable, right?
Right. So it's like it almost comes off like a white person in blackface.
Yes.
Because you're referencing a community that not only you're not a part of, you don't even want to be a part of. And it's like I always think there's a difference between what my friends can say to me, how they can challenge me, and somebody that don't know me trying to do the same.
That's actually a talking point I was going to touch on, which is that, when we are refined or even so-called refined, we have to stop looking for acceptance outside of our community instead of searching for more refined versions of ourselves, right? And it's like the whole the Black person in blackface, kind of a situation where, like the Hodge twins that you mentioned, no offense to them at all, they're hilarious, they're entertaining, but the fact that they run towards that direction, and then when they're met with, "Oh, you think you're one of us?" What? And they're shocked and surprised by it. It's like, well, no. And I'm not even necessarily saying they're refined, but you get my point.
Yeah. And what's funny is you'll see me wear this hat that obviously is the Black.
That's a fire hat, by the way.
Black American traditional hat, right? Flag hat, right? Rather. And so today, apparently, I'm pro-Black. But if I just take this hat off and put that hat on,
it's pro masculinity, by the way.
Which is now pro masculinity. But how do the people who are so emotional, how do they react and respond? Oh, you just trying to be with the whites. You just trying to be a white man. You just sucking up Trump. Like, you get what I'm saying? Whereas like the mission, the focus, the things that I'm trying to address on the behalf of men, families, the Black community, getting people to read again, it comes with a cost.
Absolutely.
My cost with launching this platform is having 85 to 90% of people that I grew up with, voted like, acted like, and were around, not want to support me and ostracize me. Came with a cost. But I know 5 years, 10 years from now, it's going to end up being that I was just more early than anything else. Because what I'm talking about is we got to reestablish standards, ethics, philosophy, or proper philosophy of how to engage with each other when we disagree, pushing more for boxing matches and not shootouts. Like that's where I'm at, right? Starting a men's group, starting additional things in 2026 that I got big plans for. A lot of people can do this very well. A lot of people can do this all day.
Yep.
And then there's other people who's actually going from a micro and macro level, trying to actually do the work both in their careers and in their free time. So, bro, I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. Where are you from?
I'm from Florida.
Bet. Okay. Yeah. So listen, brother, sir. Next time I'm announcing I'm in Florida, make sure you DM me and or email me and let me know so that maybe I can link up with some of y'all. Cause there was folks in Atlanta that was like, oh, you should have told us you was out there. And I'm like, I'm gonna start trying to do that more with those who, kind of let me know, that I'm heading in an area that they may tend to be.
Oh yeah, brother. Welcome me with open arms, red carpet treatment.
Hey,
I got a couple ideas I wanted to give you too. About 2 shows. Should I say them now or later?
Email for sure. Because I know I got a couple more people I got to pop up.
Yeah. Because I don't want nobody stealing them. Because I know you're the perfect man for them. All right, brother. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you. All right,
do your thing.
All right, so I'm going to bring on a couple more guests, and then we're going to wrap things up for sure. All right, so Ali, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome to the show.
It's good to talk to you. I've been listening to your show for a little while now, but I guess I'm on a little bit of a disagreement. Like I understand your stance, but I think the framing of the whole conversation is is where I have a problem with it. Like I don't mind the criticisms of that are towards African Americans, and even self criticisms that we have, but it's the framing that actually negative puts more negativity towards Black people. For instance, it's like when we talk about groups, right? We always have to be a collective, and we always have to acknowledge ourselves as a collective. So, but no other group is required to do that but us. So,
okay,
when everything's highlighted that's negative, it puts a bad look on all of us. But we don't ourselves highlight the positives enough. And then we take the negatives that everybody else framing, claiming it to be self-reflection or just more of a self-critical. Yet no other people have that same responsibility that we do. And yet our plight in America is unlike anybody else's plight in the world. So we don't even, a lot of times when we frame it and we look at it as trying to be critical of ourselves, we don't even give ourselves the correct, like what do you call it? Like I don't want to say forgiveness, but some sort of like grace to see where we've come from and where we are today, even with the negatives that are there. No people had to do what we had to do to get to where we're at without any legs up, without anything. And the fact that the rates are the way they are is almost a positive to where almost to where they should be, based on the history and the things that we've had to deal with. So when we frame it and we look at it and then we pick out the negatives and then we highlight the negatives and we say, oh, look how this person's acting. Oh, look how, oh yeah, we don't like that. Oh, I'm not like that. And it's just like, okay, you feed it into exactly what they're saying. And then, and then vice versa. It's like, oh yeah, but this person shoots up at school, but no, that's a bad person.
I got a
Or
question
that's, but us, we keep on doing it. But yeah,
I got a question for you. What problem in life has ever been resolved by pretending it doesn't exist?
See, you're right.
Just to start, because we're gonna flesh this out, right? So
no. There isn't. I'm fully.
Right? Yeah. So
okay.
So the reason why I asked that question is because the argument you're making, I've made repeatedly on this particular show. Not this particular episode, but I've made repeatedly on my platform, including when I had a pretty detailed critique of Charlie Kirk and conservatives, that they have a tendency to do exactly what it is that you're describing, and talking about why it is that we're one of the few that oftentimes is, like you said, viewed as a group, as an entity, and not being allowed to be viewed and seen as individuals. I've said that statement several times. People in the chat can even quote me. In reference to today, I can agree that it would be dope for us to focus more so, or a lot more, on our positive attributes. Totally agree with you with that. This is the problem. We have a community that's conditioned to make a lot of things that's negative viral, and a lot of things that's positive doesn't get a lot of traction, right? So we see it in music. There's tons and tons of artists that don't talk about any, and even in hip hop, that talk about super positive things, nothing negative at all. They get little to no traction with us, domestically or globally.
Yep.
Right. So one of the ways to potentially address this is to highlight the negatives and talk about what the responses should be from a relational standpoint, from a professional standpoint, from a marriage standpoint, in hopes that if you ostracize it enough, shame it enough, demonize the bad shit that's happening in our community enough and say, yo, bros, that the quarter zips, that's what we doing now. Wearing your shit where your ass hanging out and shooting up in the very areas where y'all live, that's corny and stupid, and y'all actually are nothing more than soldiers for white supremacists. That's probably going to be more effective for calling those type of individuals out and starting to change the tone of not letting them be seen as heroes and actually pieces of shit. That's actually going to be far more effective than talking about, oh, let's talk about this positive thing. I'm not saying it's an either or. I'm just acknowledging the reality of what we've been conditioned and primed to dealing with. Now, with what you're saying, I would be one of the people that would be like, I have no problem with people on their personal social media pages, their platforms, covering much more of the positive stuff. Feel free to do it. What you're going to discover is what it is that I'm talking about. You're going to see that you could do this for another 5 years and you may not clear 100 subscribers of doing just that. So I think you either have to do what you're saying, which is a little bit of both, or you have to be a little bit more heavy-handed with addressing and acknowledging the bad stuff. That doesn't mean that I'm trying to suck up to white supremacy or to white supremacists or white nationalists. I'm just acknowledging that this is an issue that we need to address. And I'll take the bullets. I'll take the disrespect. I'll take the disagreement. But I've made a decision. I'm going to stand on it. And I believe that personally, what Malcolm tried to do, what Martin tried to do, and every other person and leader that tried to do was also address and highlight the attention to the problems and then simultaneously offer solutions to said problems. Look, I'll give you
Okay, no, and I one thing, I love self-criticism, right? I'm one that loves to be held accountable and hold myself accountable. But my problem wasn't the self-criticism in itself. It is the framing around the subject that is, in my opinion, and I'll give a good example of where I know you talk about emotionalism. I'm a what do you call it? I'm kind of intense, so I try to calm down a little bit. But I had a problem with, like, when you I saw the point when you talked about Jasmine Crockett and Megan Thee Stallion, right? And then I'm sitting there saying, okay, this woman is famous, she has status in the Black community as an artist. People look up to her for those things. So yeah, is she a token for the what's name? Is that okay? But when I say, like, the criticism that you have of her, and then I look at it and I'm like, well, look at Donald Trump, right? No, not just Donald Trump, but look at the actual racists and the things that they say that are allowed in that party, that are allowed on a stage and given a voice. And then we say, oh, Jasmine, she changed her voice. And I'm looking like, and it's like, but then the frame is like really hard on them, right? Okay. And it's like, then we see a move of African Americans going like, man, I can't take it. Look how I'm gonna go over here. It's like, but now you're literally sitting with the white supremacists and literally pushing their points. And it's like, we're not literally acknowledging that point. Like, literally, like when you talked about Charlie Kirk, when you talk about Trump, when you talk about Crowder, when you talk about these prominent people that are literally pushing some white supremacy, like Nick, for instance, and things that are part of that party, that they're giving them platforms, and we're sitting there saying, oh, look at Jasmine Crockett and how she talked. But look at this dude. And it's like, how can we appropriately, literally, like, how can we make sure we can, criticize ourselves without
I'll show you how.
What do you call it? Without over extending it and then literally putting in the frames of white supremacists, and then literally walking a whole bunch of African Americans to go and support and push for their agenda of the white supremacists. It's like,
all right.
That's the problem.
Just to clarify, and I'm not trying to rush you because it is getting.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm gonna have two responses to this. Number one, of the Black people that did engage in the political process that voted for the Democrat Party and Kamala Harris, what's roughly in your mind the percentage of them that did vote for her?
Say that again?
What's the percentage of Black Americans that voted for Kamala Harris? What was that percent, approximately?
Overall, I know out of, I know this. I know it was high 80s% of African Americans that did voted for her. The overall percentage of African Americans that actually voted for her, I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't know
the
that.
one. Yeah, just yeah.
Just you want me to guess?
No, that's
Guess?
it.
I wouldn't know.
That
Okay.
was it.
All right.
That was
Go
it.
ahead.
That was.
Okay.
If 80 to 85% of the time, my community is doing something, voting a particular way, or acting in a particular manner, what percent, if I'm going to talk about it, of my community, should I be referencing that? 80, same percentage, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would agree. Yeah.
Okay, so that's one. Point number two. You confuse me when I hold Democrats and black people and ratchet black people in positions of power. Me critiquing that and challenging how that's normalizing how people abroad and domestically are viewing us. You equate that with me somehow potentially now not leaning in or having the same smoke for people who aren't getting damn near 10% of the black damn vote. My
No,
lens of view. So just to clarify, and again, you may not have meant that, but that's how it came off. And
No,
I'm
I'll clarify.
I'm
Go ahead. Go ahead.
going to explain this as clear as I can because I haven't explained this on this platform yet.
Mhm.
I am a black political deconstructionist.
Okay.
That means I don't give a fuck about Jasmine Crockett like that. I don't give a fuck about Democrats. I actually don't give a fuck about Republicans. I don't give a fuck about the fake two-party illusionary system that they've set up.
Okay.
So we even dealing with this shit to begin with. What I'm actually trying to do is get the mental political change that we have over our heads and in our brains that tells us if we vote differently, if we move differently, if we talk differently, if we do anything off of what the Democrats establishment has decided for us. This is no different. This is Juneteenth all over again. Juneteenth, for the audience, for people that aren't aware, Juneteenth was you had slaves that had been emancipated that was still on the plantation and didn't know that they were allowed to leave. I'm trying to convince our community that if we focus more on group economics, group processes, fixing stuff within our house and not putting our ability to feed ourselves, clothe ourselves, and do things being dependent on said government, federal government at that. And we deconstructed ourselves from a system that we're waiting for our opportunity to get things they're never going to give us. We actually would probably be much more better off of building our own Chinatowns, building our own little Italies. But instead, we're so fixated on promises that's never going to come. The definition of insanity is what?
Doing the same thing over again?
And expecting
Doing the same
what?
thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Okay. So if 60, 70, 80 to 90% of the time we're doing the same thing and things are getting worse, their argument is to always, their greatest argument for why you should support them and rock with them is supposed to be about, well, the boogeyman's on the other side. The racist is on the other side. I'm a person that reads books and knows that there's racists on both sides. I know that there's white racist liberals and I know that there's white racist Republicans. And I also know that black people, as long as they keep being held up on the optics and how something sounds and you're too hard on this person, too hard on that person, I don't think you and people like you are hard enough on the people that's selling our people out, bro. That's to be honest with you. Why do I say that? Because if you had as much smoke for them as you have for me, you'd be questioning why they would be seen as a legitimate face for us. But because you're more concerned with, because I'm not shitting on Donald Trump enough or Nick Fuentes enough, that suddenly all of a sudden now I'm too hard on people who selling us out. Let me be very clear what my stance is with Kamala Harris and Jasmine Crockett and all these people on this particular side. And just to clarify, and I'm gonna let you speak and give you the floor, and I'm not gonna interrupt you.
All right.
And I'm gonna try to make this as clear as possible. Jasmine Crockett doesn't know you exist. Jasmine Crockett doesn't give a fuck about you. Kamala Harris doesn't know you exist. She does not give a fuck about you. And every single person that's in a political point of position, that's in a position where they can do something for you and can do something for your community, more oftentimes than not, does not. So me calling them out, me stating, when are you going to deliver on some goddamn goods? so that you don't just keep taking us for granted while you're actively opening up the border and shipping people to the very cities that I work in. I got a fucking problem with that, because I'm gonna tell you this: the racist Republicans that you're talking about, sure enough, wasn't doing that in my goddamn city. They wasn't taking my tax dollars and opening it up to undocumented immigrants, which is actively happening in my district, in my city, in my company as we speak. So the people who's making life harder for my community happens to be the people who gets the most votes from my community. So if you ask me why I got so much goddamn smoke for them, that's why. It's not that I'm playing patty cake with white supremacists or white nationalists. What I'm arguing is if we get off the mental plantation and you have your Juneteenth moment, you'll be much more invested on what we should do together to build, so that me and you and everybody that thinks like me and you can decide, all right, bro, what's our 5-year plan in terms of building our trades, building our assets, getting our money right, and figuring out which jurisdictions, states, cities we're going to take over and run that shit. Y'all worried about elections and how politicians are being described. I'm talking about what the fuck we're going to do. Y'all talking about how we voting. Y'all talking about politicians. I'm talking about what we're going to do. That's the difference. I'll give you the floor and I won't interrupt you.
No. I appreciate you clarifying your stance, but I just want you to know, like, it wasn't towards you. Like, and again, I said it specifically because I think the topic was about Black fatigue, right? And Black fatigue is a specific thing. It's this exhaustion of Black people, and the narrative of it alone is being framed. And I'm saying the way we're talking about this word Black fatigue is being framed in a way that is pushing the agenda of white supremacists, because I feel that we're feeding into their narrative by they say, oh yeah, that's true. Oh, we always have to take like and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's just unfair, because it's like when you want to be self-critical, right? And we say, okay, that's true, right? I get it. I see the things that really happen, but then it's like, oh, I got to eat that bullet and say, yeah, that's a part of my people. But when anytime it's about them, no one else has that responsibility. And then we keep on feeding into it. Then we understand, like, yeah, is it true white fatigue and Black fatigue? Yeah, it's true. Look at those ignorant people. It's like, yo, I mean, like, what you mean? And then it's like, well, it's the Black people specifically. I'm like, yo, we're feeding into the narrative that they're making. It's like, and that's why I see why people are saying, like, it's so much more nuance into that situation. And if we just want to take all the nuance of it and then agree just for expediency, then it's like, okay, they win. And then they make the narrative, they promote it and say, look, see, they agree with us. Look at it. They got a problem. We say, oh yeah, it's just white people, but I ain't gotta own no white person, because we don't hold no white person. Like, that's what I'm saying. If it's a school shooting, you yourself don't go around looking or making this video. Look at white people. Look what they're doing. But the one crazy black person kill a black girl, you don't see it nothing nonstop. And then black people have to address it, and then they have to do it. And then it's like, oh, we have to defend a crazy black person, but that's the narrative that's made. And look at position that puts us in. And that's the part I'm saying. I'm sorry if you felt like I'm going to get you directly, but I'm just saying, it's like, but then they get to make all these things about it, and then you got Pearl sitting up there, literally gaslighting black people, and then and when they get emotional, it's like, look how you're acting. Stay right. It's like, yo, this person is literally rage baiting and coming up here with a bad faith and gaslighting black people. And then when we react, it's like, look at you. And she did it on purpose because she knew it. So I get it, but it's like, this is what we got to deal with. And it's like, of course it's exhausting. And that is literally the definition of Black fatigue that the person was trying to say. And that's what we live in. And then we're caught up in the thing like, oh, you're too emotional. It's like, I don't know what to do when it's like, I see how I have to be framed and looked at constantly. And that's the part where I'm having a problem with. You know what I mean?
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
It wasn't directly towards you, right? It wasn't like a Democrat or Republican thing. It was the framing that they keep on coming, and then it forces us to, to have that conversation and to give that, okay, we'll take that one. And it's like, but they're not genuine with it to begin with.
I hear you. I tried to acknowledge that nuance. There were 2 words that you said in your response rebuttal to me that I want you to sit in on.
Okay.
You said, I feel. And that's the problem.
What do you mean? Me personally, I said, I feel. Like me?
Mm-hmm. You said, I feel. And then went on this soliloquy that you gave. Very passionate, mind you, about optics, right? No, you're good. I wasn't worried about the length of it. The optics, how white people think about it, how Republicans respond to it, why it's not fair and why they can't do this or do that. I feel what I'm suggesting is that's why we're in the situation we're in. Because if people are more interested in the optics than what we're going to do, this is how we get lost in translation. This is how we get triggered. This is how we're so exhausted because somebody said something we don't like. I don't give a fuck about what Pearl thinks about Black community. I really don't. I can respect her platform. She brought me on her platform. She gave me an opportunity, which is part of the reason why millions of people or thousands of people may even know that I exist. I don't give a fuck about what Pearl thinks about Black people. And guess what? I would assume Pearl doesn't give a fuck about what I think about white people. And it doesn't stop her movement, doesn't stop her life, doesn't stop her from doing what it is she needs to do. But with us, we gotta step on the brakes. We gotta acknowledge that this ain't fair. This ain't right. The reality is we're not the majority. We are a minority. And guess what? You said this. Yes, our unique history is very different from everybody else in terms of what's happened to us from 1600 to today. Fair. But Muslims don't get thrown into this group shit. Arabs don't get thrown into this group shit. Somalis don't get thrown into this group shit. There's a whole bunch of people that are non-white that gets thrown into this shit. And when people say, well, white people don't have to go through this. Okay. And what are we going to do about it? Because regardless of how white people move, what white people think, I have to do what I have to do for myself, for my family, and the people that I represent. So while we're focused on optics, feelings, and fairness, in 2026, we got to get past, if anything, I would love for us to set the feelings and emotions and all this shit aside and focus on what we can practically do. Because regardless of Black feelings, Black fatigue, Black exhaustion towards white people, that's not stopping shit with them. So that's my lens where I want us to slow down. I want us to acknowledge that if we're going to have feelings, let those feelings motivate us towards something versus feelings just about something, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. And again, I agree with everything that you're saying. One of the things that I'm trying to say is that, like, the topic of Black fatigue, right? And I'm saying, and maybe it's me. I think that the narrative as a whole is hurting me as a Black person, right? And I fear that the way we engage or the way we give credibility to the bad faith people about the subject is indirectly affecting us. That's my point of it, and that's where I feel like if that's where I worry about it. You know, it's not because I love being self-critical, but when people take that self-critical, and that's the part where I'm having, and that's why it's not what you're doing. Like I support that. I love being more critical of ourselves. I want to do it, but then it's like, you know, they take a word from us, they take it, they make the narrative, they set the narrative, and then we're sitting back in the queues saying, okay, we got to take this, and then it's like, but it makes us look worse. It's like, oh, that new word is theirs now, and it represents all of us. And it's like, daggone, now we took 10 steps back.
Let's just to clarify, let's just assume everything you're saying is true. Now what?
Okay. Now what? I think I would say this. I think it's important to bring the nuance in to the beginning of the conversation, right?
And I think it's important and do you think that tonight's conversation, when I went through 7 particular points involving nuance, how to engage, how to respond, what's the various motivating factors for why various people are engaging in this topic, do you think that was the attempt to do that?
Absolutely. I don't think there was anything that you did that was bad faith. That's why I said the framing of it. And I wasn't coming at you directly. I would say that's why I really stuck with the framing, because because that's and I know perception is like, oh, you can't really care about how people, you know, view you. But at the same time, when that viewing is a power on top of us that they're using to, you know, criticize us. I mean, they do it all the time. That's what I'm saying. Like I said, the case of what happened in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the lady was stabbed. Like that is a prime example of trying to paint all of us like that. And we're like taking the bullet and feeding into it. And I see the point that you're making, but it is directly affecting us. And I'm saying, like, how as Black people can we have the the conversation and have the honest conversation about it without feeding into the narrative that they're trying to put upon us and make it worse for us. And I
I'm gonna be
feel
honest
like
with you, bro. I don't think that
that's
it
just
matters.
the
Like
thing.
it's.
Okay.
I think in the grand scheme of things, I don't think what you're worried about and concerned about is top 20 of things we should be prioritizing. Personally, I think we got to reevaluate what's happened in terms of abortions in our community. I think we got to reevaluate drug use in our community. I think we got to reevaluate gangster and prostitution culture in our community. I think the violence is obvious. I think the way we've approached politics, where we're coming always through a begging lens versus through an economic leverage lens. I think there's our spending habits. I think there's a whole host of things that are far more important than what white people feel and think about our image. Not to say that that's not important, and not to say, and I even said it tonight, that when you use the term black fatigue, I can understand how that's the same exact talking point that a white supremacist or white nationalist would use. That doesn't negate that there's issues happening in the community that we need to do something about. I just decided that I'd rather spend much more time on how we can solve these problems and address these issues and give people an opportunity to understand what's happening, where it came from, how it's been bastardized and now turned back on black people, but now how to engage, respond if you even choose to, and then respond and move accordingly. My view is that if we become less emotional, less reactive, less focused on optics and how it's going to be framed, and if you put this passion into what we're doing, this conversation would have been 2 minutes long. But if you're focused on framing and what it sounds like, and I'm gonna keep it a being with you. White people who have a platform and base, 90% of them, 98% of them, we're not their target audience, and they're already big by default. We're not making anything more other than Pearl, who had a major black male audience. None of these other white commentators even have that. So the reality is, talking about it, addressing it, acknowledging the parts that are true and the parts that are false, and how we're going to proceed is much more effective than a lot of this other stuff that you're talking about. Because at the end of the day, man, our position is getting worse regardless of who's in office, regardless of which political party is running things. We're getting worse. Things are declining. We've lost so much wealth since 2008 housing crash. We've lost so much political clout. The most recent election and what happened in terms of recent policies, the Aaron Magruder clip at the very beginning, we've lost the moral equity that we were holding on to by a thread. So now we got to focus on what we're going to do. So I get that you have a lot of passion, you have a lot of energy and interest in this stuff in terms of this particular subject matter. I'm just suggesting that if you, in 2026, if you rechannel that into what actionable steps we're going to take, so that 4 years from now, 6 years from now, 10 years from now, we're better than where we are individually and collectively, you might not be as emotionally stirred up about this particular topic. It's not because it's not important, but it can't be, it can't affect you to the degree that it does. I do have more people on, man, so I'm going to let you go, but I appreciate you pulling up through, bro. I thank you.
Nah, I appreciate you letting me on. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care.
No. Come in.
All right, y'all. So I'm going to bring on 2 more people, and then I'm wrapping it up because your boy is tired. This is now, oh my God, this is even longer than last night. Jesus. Just a guy. What's going on, good brother?
Oh, man. All right. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm all right now after that last conversation.
Yeah, it was rough. So I'm kind of nervous. First time on like the internet like this. I'm the same age as you, man. I'm 36. Really? Wow. I see a lot of problems. I'm gonna try to. It's getting late. I'm gonna try to speed run a lot of this. Okay.
If you can pick your top 2, I can rock with you.
All right. So we got to start telling the truth. Okay. That's number 1. We got to start telling the truth. People talking about people cherry picking and trying to find internet content to make black people look bad. World Star Hip Hop exists. Woo. They don't need to cherry pick nothing, brother. Woo. They can find years of content just there. You don't have to cherry pick to find it. So what aboutism? I'm so tired of that. because like some of the whole, like I get that a lot of people can go back and forth, but let your girl cheat on you and then tell you about what the neighbor wife doing. You're not gonna care. You're not gonna care.
Yep.
Let's honestly, let's start with the man in the mirror. Let's start with the man in the mirror.
Facts.
We can keep talking about traps that people are setting for us, but we continue to walk right in them.
We fall for them.
You can't be mad at the fisherman for throwing a worm on a hook and putting it in the water. You just can't. Now, another one. Somebody earlier said the problems and background of a criminal. Like, oh, we got to be worried about the social economic backgrounds that led them to do this. Let's see if he would like justice when the person breaks into his home, or does he want to figure out what their social background and economic problems were? I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think he just wants some justice to happen.
Okay. Nah, I appreciate it, and especially that first part, man. The reality is like at the end of the day, we can talk about all these other groups and what they got to say. We supporting the very shit we complain about and they complaining about too. World Star Hip Hop blew up because of us, and it wasn't because they were showing the positive shit about us either, right? So I appreciate, kudos to you, bro, because that was a very interesting conversation, and I'm happy that there's somebody who's like, bro, at the end of the day, wrong is wrong, and we got to call a spade and be honest. So I appreciate you for kind of putting that out and reminding me that like what I'm saying is actually like normal.
Yeah, just telling the truth. A couple more things to try to speed run. Like somebody was saying about like the image. We are far too more worried about the image. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate all you brothers that came up and spoke. I'm not trying to like it on nobody or nothing like that. Like the degrees and everything, that's amazing. That is amazing. But we got to stop tricking the community and telling brothers like me who had never went to high school that we can't do what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna be owning my home in probably about 5 years, done and paid for. Like I just told you, I'm 36. I've never even went to high school a day in my life. Never. Now, it can be done. Like getting in trades, working with your hands, doing those kind of things. It's actually it's beneficial to us and to the community as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like higher education is as well. We can't just keep telling people because you don't have a degree that you're doing something that's not beneficial to the community.
I agree with you on that. And I've spoken to on this platform, Dave Anderson and a couple other people about in 2026, every man, let alone every person, but every man that's watching this platform, I'm encouraging, including myself, to explore investing in and learning a trade. So I actually haven't told my audience go to school and take on the student loan debt and do all this stuff like I did. I'm actually stating as a person who got the education, listen, y'all, we got to learn a trade. And I was actually referencing in relation to AI. Jobs getting shipped overseas, and the trades will probably be one of the last jobs that'll probably get, replaced as easily. Kudos to, and I'm gonna say this, bro, kudos to you and people like you, because you're handling your responsibilities. You're making, I know you talked about optics, but believe it or not, if you're staying out of trouble, you paying your bills, you own your property, about to pay it off, that is making us look better. And I appreciate men like you. And I want to have the variety of people that look like me, maybe more educated than me, less educated than me formally, and all of us being a good reflection of said community. So I appreciate guys like you who's holding it down and doing what you need to do and calling a spade a spade. We do need more men like you, believe it or not.
Yeah. For optics, I just was trying. I didn't mean to like the dig in on like degrees. I just meant just almost anything as far as the optics thing. We too worried about being flashy and stuff like that. Like I said, the house I'm purchasing right now, it's not like I don't know what they're talking about. All these houses that's $500,000. You know why? Because I can't afford it, so I don't look there. You know what I mean? Like my house.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm not worried about what kind of shoes I got on that's super flashy or this or that, or choking myself with a car note that I can't afford. I own all of my vehicles. I got several.
Yeah.
It's not hard to do. You just got to not be worried about the optics. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Nah, I appreciate you and thank you for that. Genuinely, man. You say you nervous, man. You might need to start one of these yourself because you spitting some bars, bro.
I really appreciate it.
There's not enough men that's talking like you on these platforms. I'm just putting that out there. All right, bro. So let me wrap this thing because I'm gonna get some more people, man. Thank you for tuning in, bro.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. All right, man. A couple more people, y'all, and then so listen, y'all can't keep joining. Stop joining shit if y'all coming in all late. Dr. Vince, I got you because I see you. I'm still gonna sneak you in, but don't nobody else join after Dr. Vince because y'all killing your boy. What's going on, Butch?
Hey, what's going on, Jeff? It's good
What's going on, bro? Long time no see. How you doing?
You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get it done. We're gonna show initiative in our community to make the right steps or to take the right steps now or never.
Facts.
Okay, you did. But yeah, man. I really appreciate and support the fact that you stepped out on faith. I know you mentioned that there were certain like shows and that you did that you almost were in tears because it's like once you step your foot in the water, you kind of like making a decision to go, hey, you know what? I may ostracize myself. I mean, I'm pretty open about my views, and I know it's gonna ostracize me to a certain degree. But you have to be brave enough to go, I own the collective ethnic image of my people, the Black American man. And as you can see, I put this, this shirt, they didn't shrink it in the, I should have dry cleaned it.
Show off. It's all good,
I should have dry cleaned it. But you got Muhammad Ali, you got Sam Cooke, you got Jim Brown, and Malcolm X. I put this on for a reason.
Nice.
I saw y'all. Let me hop on and support, and then I threw this on. I'm like, this is perfect to go along with what we're talking about with Black. And I'm gonna be short. I know you. It's been 3 hours and 5 minutes exactly. So I'm gonna be short. But just us reclaiming our ethnic image of what it means to be cool, right? And then we can think and look back at like the late 80s, early 90s with Hillman and Kente Cloth embedded it. And this is more when the Pan-African, movement was a lot more heavy. I remember I was a kid, coming up and doing, Kwanzaa speeches at the church, churches, all of this stuff. So it was a different vibe. But just us owning our ethnic image is the, I know I'm kind of like being a little big with my speech, but us owning our ethnic image, owning what it means to be cool, not being told by other groups with interests outside of what is in our best interest, what it means to be cool. And then also understanding friends versus allies. We may ally on one particular topic, but that doesn't mean that I need to agree with this group of people or this person on everything that they say. Friends versus allies. You know what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
So we can ally with you over here, but that don't mean I may raise a glass with you, and then after that we disband, and it's because everything is some other things that you may have an interest in, may run an interference of what our interest in as a community. Which again, we have to put us first as foundation of Black Americans. So I don't know, kind of ran on a little bit of the same.
I appreciate all of that, and I will say, my view of the Pan-African movement overall is, it's gonna sound harsh. I'm about to say, I don't give a fuck about it.
Hey, I feel you.
I don't give a fuck about it. I've learned and observed enough to know that all the countless ways and opportunities that could have been extended from both ends, and that seems to have been something that was only sought out from this side.
Yep.
I don't give a fuck about Pan-Africanism no more. It's not that I don't give a fuck about Africa. I was there 2 years ago for my honeymoon. But the idea of Pan-Africanism, I'm totally over it. I'm so focused on what the hell we gonna do, what we gonna build. And believe it or not, my lens is we could learn something from the Nazis. The Nazis, as soon as the war ended, they in the thousands relocated to Argentina and picked up land and territory and took it over and in Brazil and Argentina. And now if you go over there, they speak German. And they bought land, they took territory, they worked with the government, and now they have an entire infrastructure where it's them. And I think that both domestically and abroad, we need to start thinking more collectively like that, and far less about like whether or not we offend, if we're too offending people too much about Kamala Harris and not arguing about Donald Trump enough, or if the Africans in various westernized countries gonna want us. Like, I don't give a fuck about none of that shit, bro. I'm focused on tangible shit. Tangible shit. I don't care about, we've been talking about Pan-African shit when my mom was a child.
Yep.
And my mom retiring next year. So I'm way past a lot of that stuff. It's great in terms of this content, but I think there's way more motivation for us to do something than everybody continue to get lost in just the back and forth optics and talking and yapping and shit. So I appreciate you, bro. Thanks for showing love, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. And just with the Pan African movement, and like you said, I'm just gonna echo it, and I'm gonna keep it real. I'm looking at the clock. I'm trying to be mindful of your time, and you trying to get to your family, do what you got to do. But yeah, man. It's the screens were coming from one side, and it's because that type of tribalism is practiced over in those respective cultures.
Okay.
So over here, it's like you come over here with it, and it's like no, and we were the ones rocking the RBG flag and all of that. But it was like it was like a one-sided thing.
Yep.
So whereas like, hey, if you are of the mind of like, hey, it's us and all of that, then cool, I'll rock with you. But if you of the mind of like, I'm something else and you over there and woo woo, then that I probably gave away where I'm from by saying woo woo. If people know about the site, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, so then that's that. But like I agree with you. It's foundational Black Americans first. It's our plight first. As it should have been, because as we laid out the carpet and the runway for everyone else to come in, but then to turn around and play the model minority thing and to say that we're the better ones, over us. So I agree with that 100%. It is our plight first, it's our exes first, and that goes back to the friends versus allies thing, right? Everybody ain't got to be your friend.
Delineation, yeah, man. I appreciate you, bro.
Thank you. All right, take care, brother.
All right, fam.
All right,
K. All right. I definitely want this brother to come on. So come on through, brother. What's going on? How are you, Doc?
How are you, Jeff? Can you hear me all right?
I hear you perfectly well. How are you?
I'm good. Listen, first of all, I want to thank you for what you're doing, to have the gravitas to step into this arena. It's not easy. This is not an easy arena to jump into. And there's a lot going on. Where do we start? First, I want to say something that I think we can speak to something very historical.
Okay.
And I kind of want to come from a spiritual perspective. However, I don't want to give a Bible lesson. That's not what I'm here to do. However, I will say, as men and women, we were not meant to do what we're doing today. We're not meant to be where we are today as humanity, as humans, right? Men going to work 9 to 5, blue collar jobs, hitting it hard every day. You might get weekends off. Our sisters, whether they're our color or not, our close relatives, working ourselves to the bone. So this is very important. I think we need to look at this as where we are to delineate the difference between where we were in history to where we are right now. So we talk about these challenges. I think one of the things that you're doing, I think, is challenging everybody is to look at solutions. Because everybody's coming on, and I'm hearing what everybody's saying. I'm not really disagreeing with a lot of the perspectives that people are coming from. However, I would like for us to be a little more solution based.
Fair.
I'm looking at evidence. I work in a couple of different industries. One of the industries I work in, I see a lot of people coming in and out of town every day. Denver, Colorado. I see sisters coming in. We got bonnets on, tiny shorts, house slippers. I'm seeing things and I'm identifying things that when we talk about Black fatigue, we're looking at a surface level. I can see things a lot deeper. I'm 58 years old, so I can look back and go, oh, okay, this is where this is coming from. This is where this is generating from. So when we talk about these things, I really want to challenge us just as a community to be solution oriented. We've got gender wars.
Yep.
That's a really big one because we're talking about the destruction of not only the Black family, because we are the canary in the coal mine, but we're talking about the family at large.
Facts.
And so these things are spilling over into different areas, our social issues, our health, our mental, sociological issues. Where do we go from here?
Okay.
And we ask these questions. Where do we go from here? I just want to bounce this back and forth with you. I've got some ideas, but I want to.
Yeah, I'll state. I've wrestled with this. I've thought about these type of questions as well, and even prior. That's why it took me 5 years to actually launch this, even though I wanted to start thinking about this back in about 2019, 2020.
Right.
I started it heavily with pushing to get people to start reading again. Believe it or not.
Put it in the book.
I think, we got illiteracy rates is crazy.
Yeah.
We don't emphasize reading, even with people that do. Like you said, we're led much more by emotionalism and symbolism,
right?
And tokenism than necessarily being well read, learned, and decisive about what it is we're supporting and why.
Right.
So I think pushing people to read again, bringing up things that causes people to have to start utilizing more critical thinking to explain why they disagree with me. Bringing into the conversation things and taboo topics that people typically don't question or think about. Helping our people to reimagine an alternative politically, economically, socially, relationally.
That's right.
These are all just the beginning steps. Then you'll do things like I'm doing, where I was already working in a field where I'm helping people actively, making sure people are able to feed themselves, take care of themselves, get their lives back on track, hiring people. So I'm already doing that work. But then in this space, I'm now pushing it further where I'm trying to do improvement, men's self-improvement groups.
Right. I see that.
Having people randomly from watching this stuff, clicking on my links and signing up to book consultations with me. I'm meeting with couples. I'm meeting with men. I've had women, white women, black women come on and reach out and state, I didn't realize how poorly I was looking at my husband.
Yeah.
How poorly I was treating the men in my life.
Right.
I need to learn how to be a better person and a better woman and a better wife.
There
So
it is. And
on
the
a
basics
mic,
of the fundamental communication. You know, you did a show on communication the other day. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Communication, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
So people, I think a lot of times, even with that example, I'm doing an episode on how to become a master communicator. I'm doing an episode on how women need to reevaluate the life that they've chosen that's brought them to the place that they are now with the single by choice is a lie last night. I did an episode on Obama. I did an episode on Charlie Kirk. I did an episode on no, you don't deserve a good woman. No, you don't deserve a good man. You actually have to put in the work to do X, Y, and Z.
That's right.
So I can't do it all on my own. But then I platformed a lot of key strategic people who I have plans on exactly the stuff you're talking about in 2026.
Wonderful.
More and more and more things from Dr. Curry to Dr. Tia San Johnson, from Dave Anderson.
Wonderful.
I've been intentional all along with what I'm doing and why I'm bringing these people on. And eventually what me and Dr. me and Dr. Curry talked about, when I reach out to these people later and we start to bring all these brilliant minds under one roof, it will not be recorded. It will not be shown, but we will have an agenda, a platform, a message, and strategic plans of how we're going to take this back to our respective groups and communities and approach this from a multi-layered approach. So yeah, man, it's a lot of yapping, there's a lot of talking about it, a lot of complaining about it. And there's actively people that's already doing the work. I'm just earlier in the process of including people in on things that I have up here. I'm thinking 5, 10, 15 years in advance. I'm just doing this right now.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It makes
And again, pushing people to get trades starting 2026. So yeah, man.
Amen to the trades, brother.
Yeah, man. So listen, you doing the work, I'm doing the work. A lot of people are trying to do the work for sure. And I think, if we stick to it, if we work individually and collectively, who knows? Maybe it won't be super trendy anymore to talk about Black people anymore because we're actually seeing things actually progress, right?
Right. And we're actually reading a book and we're actually studying and diving in and saying, okay, how do we correct some of these issues? I just wrote a book, and I'm sorry to get on here and promote my book, but I just wrote a book called Take It Like a Man. It's #1 on Amazon. It speaks directly to mental health issues and growing up as a teenager, as a young man, as a young Black African-American man. How do we deal with these particular issues growing up in a single mom house?
Yeah. And crazy enough, and I appreciate you for plugging your book. I'm going to state this again. I started my platform when I went viral with plugging and pushing this book.
Okay.
And I don't think we're going to make any significant strides if we're not able to recognize indoctrination and propaganda from the people that we're supporting, voting for,
That's right.
being lied to. Because when you're so conditioned and brainwashed into it's trusting the system that you keep saying is so harmful and broken and corrupt and racist.
Right.
I'm trying to get people to wake the fuck up just to open their eyes to this, so then we can start thinking about all the other things that you're talking about.
That's
so
right.
yeah, man, I'm attacking it from multiple. Listen, I'm attacking it from multiple angles. As are you and many other people. Yes. And I think that if we do this type of stuff more often, we learn more about each other. Who knows, man? Who knows? Who knows where we'll be 5, 8, 10 years from now? Honestly,
that's
Listen,
right.
bro, I appreciate you.
Thank
I'm
you
gonna be
so much.
logging off. Thank you
so much.
Thank you for tuning in, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, y'all. So that is a wrap. Oh, we got one more person. I gotta make sure I didn't miss any more. Hey, THPP Network, appreciate you guys. Y'all always show love. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for the $19.99. Author Will Sands, thank you for the $10. Anytime you move forward, you will lose people. Yeah, man, it happens. I get it. It is what it is. I've had to just kind of acknowledge it and accept it. Thanks, Nicholas, again for the $20 for sure. Yeah, I'm here. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the combo, but now I'm tired for real. So I'm logging off for real. And then last but not least, D. Cole St. Jenkins, DC Old Jenkins. Thank you for the $5. When non-Black people say Black fatigue, it's them promoting the Black criminal class as the representation for all Black people. I'm not a Pookie. Yes, and that's partially true, although a lot of times, and Doug MPA kind of alluded to it, they're not always talking about just criminality. Sometimes they're just talking about literal ratchetness, unprofessionalism, doing things that's not criminal but still is classless, and stating like it's becoming a bit much. And that's kind of what there's some people that use that term are kind of referencing. Again, I gave my personal opinions on the actual term itself. And that I think that there's actually much more strategic ways to kind of go, decode this, got you, my bad, to kind of go about it. But listen, y'all, I hope that this was detailed. I hope that, you guys were able to get something from it. Appreciate everybody that kind of tuned in, called in. I'm definitely going to try to do more of these in the very near future. I got some episodes lined up that y'all are going to love starting next week. I got some potentially 1, 2 surprise guests next week, and definitely some big guests coming on at the tail end of the year. So I'm excited. Appreciate y'all for the love and support. Please hype up this video. Send it to 2 or 3 people. Definitely send it to people that's interested in politics. Send it to Democrats. Send it to Republicans. Send it to liberals, progressives, independents, etc. Men, women, children as well. I hope that this was a meaningful, interesting conversation, and I hope that it continues to lead towards us becoming much better, more grounded, more intelligent people. So thank y'all for your time, man. Your boy is exhausted and tired, and I'll see y'all next week, bright and early. Peace.